Another week, another race. Action coming in thick and fast here at the Sim Grid. Staying at the location, we recently had our Super Saturday 2 at Donington Park. Once again plays host to another thrilling evening of racing here on this Thursday. A slight twist sees us use some absolute British classics, looking very much at home here indeed. Bentleys, Jags, McLarens, and of course the roar of the Aston Martin V12 over the course of a 90-minute race around this 4-kilometre venue. Donington Park is one of the most recognisable circuits in the country, well known for its national racing more in recent past, as well as the odd bit of international racing as well, being used in F1, MotoGP, and of course being the home of Formula E. It's time for the British Classics event here at Donington Park. I'm Lewis McGlade, and with an iconic track, iconic cars, who better to have than the iconic Mr. David Christie?
I like that. That was really, really nice.
One.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I really have heard the effort there. But look, joking aside, what an awesome event we've got tonight. You know, the proper quintessential British GT cars at the ultimate GT track here in the UK. I've been to it only once myself for the BTCC Media Day. It is an incredible track, and even in the sim, you don't fully get an experience for what the undulations are like down at, say, Craner curves towards Old Hairpin, and then the run down to the Fogarty S's. Amazing track, and yeah, this is going to be a great night.
Yeah, we had it on Super Saturday, of course, less than a week ago, where we came here, did a 2 and a bit hour race, 2.4 hours of Snetterton, saw plenty of action up and down the order, but it was in the dry. You can see there, it's maybe a little bit damp, David. But before we get into it, we'll just take a quick break and then get into some qualifying. A little bit of a tease of what's to come in the Sim Grid. Plenty of racing from the upcoming Sprint Cup to the Best of British and more even past that. Our focus, though, for today heads to what is not a rainy and wet Donington Park. It's nice and sunny, actually quite delightful out there. And with the sun on the circuit, we should see some times, at least with a little bit of comparison to what we saw on Saturday.
100%. I think we're going to see some very fast times, and again, you know, the drivers that are taking part, a good number of them took part in several of the races on Saturday. You've got the return of Cormac Ryan Meenan, Killian Ryan Meenan, you've got Igor Ogorodnikov, you've got Marcel Fouzy, just to name a few. However, some very different cars, and I think it's safe to say a lot of the machines that they don't tend to run week in, week out.
And that's what we love to see. Love to see them spicing up. We're seeing the old Bentley, we're seing the Jag, and of course the old McLaren. Yeah, they're not in the 720s, they're in the 650s this time, and it's great to see some of these older machinery getting run that little bit, because we just don't get to see these that often. It's a nice little bit of a spice. There it is, the Jag. Oh, I love the Jag. Absolutely adore it. May not be the fastest, but we've only got, I think it's only one out there today. Only one in this split. Of course, plenty of other races going on at the same time. Our focus being here on split one, showing how many drivers and how much action happens at the Sim Grid.
That's the great thing about the sim grids here, Lewis, is the fact that because of those multiple splits, really anybody can take part. So, you know, we quite often see some of the fastest sim racers here in Assetto Corsa Competizione in Tier 1. but that's never an excuse for anybody not to get involved, because if you're just starting out or you think you're not on the pace, then get yourself into split 3, split 4, some of the lower tier ones where it's more welcoming to the rookies, to the novices. And the second way that you can improve your ability and your time is heading over to Coach Dave Academy, our wonderful partner, who provides some amazing esports professionally developed sim racing setups.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to have had that assistance back in the day, but where sim racing moves forward, it becomes more open and allows for other drivers to enter the fray. A 127.327 from Killian Ryan Meenan, just going ahead of Marcel Fusey at the top of the session in that nice pink McLaren. A bit of a note just to throw things out there, even though it is fairly irrelevant because slightly different cars, obviously, more modern. The pole time on Saturday was a 125.548. Conditions here today are a little bit colder than it was, a little bit more windy though. We are kind of expecting times to drop from a 27.3, although I'm not too sure we'll be going after Hosseini's pole time, which was done in the newer McLaren. Szymanski out of the final corner goes to second position behind Killian Ryan Meenan. How good would it be for Killian and Cormac Ryan Meenan to qualify well? Because we've seen them so many times the last couple of weeks. Qualify, not so great, but have a great run up the order.
And the other thing that surprises me as well is that they always tend to be so clean around each other. If they come to the same part of the track as well, every other car would maybe get a little bit elbows out, but they kind of have things switched on and they seem to communicate with each other and get themselves through the grid, although we very rarely, believe it or not, actually see them around about each other in the order.
Yeah, it is a bit of a novel. They seem to qualify not so great. I don't know which one would be classified as better than the other, but they both tend to move up, roughly the same amount of positions. But obviously, because of that, they're never near each other. I think they were quite close to each other at one point on the Super Saturday race, but wasn't. I think it was only briefly, and it was after some instance for Killian. So. Yeah, we'll see if they get close today. At the moment, though, Whitehead tops the session by half a second. Still plenty of time for anyone to put in a decent lap time. It's a McLaren 1, 2, 3, 4. We're currently looking at René Siver, who's just out of the final corner, looking for a decent time to get onto the front row at the moment. Does indeed do so, but 3/10 down on Whitehead. Could that be an impressive lap time at this early stage, or are we looking for that one to get beaten?
I think there's no doubt whatsoever that time will get beaten, and quite significantly. I think you're going to see times into the about 125.5 potentially, given that we've already hit that mark and we've got another 13 minutes left to go in qualifying. What you'll normally see is they'll come in, Fuzi's around about 4-5 tenths of a second. You'll see that they'll take about 5 minutes out to do their banker lap. And then, as you see, Muller up there with the 126.6. But again, another point just pointed out to us by Michael Hamlet in our ears there, the best condition is for the track to be optimum. At the moment, it's just fast, so it's not as grippy, it's not as tight as it could be out there on the circuit. So if that improves, maybe we'll see some lightning quick times. But for just now, I think 125.8, 125.9.
Yeah, Cormac Ryan Meenan goes to 7th position there. A bit of a slide there from Ben Hitz after being quite far up on himself, I think, and maybe just pushing it a little bit too far through McLaren's. And now we watch Rotundo go through the same corner. No mistake from him, not running too far wide, and just using that green concrete on the left-hand side, you can do so. It's just, say, you push it a little bit too far, you go over the bumps, over the dirt. It's very easy to spin up, as we saw from Hit. See what Rotundo does coming down towards the Fogarty S. It's still got a few more corners to go, of course, using the Grand Prix loop, not the National, where they, in the touring cars and stuff, they go right, left there. We go left, right, and onto a part of the track which can provide some good racing, but the hairpin's quite easy to defend at.
It is very, very easy to defend it. It's also very easy to make a mistake at, because if you've got traction control set too low on the exit of the hairpin, that car's really going to want to struggle around. But Walter Rotundo coming through Goddard's just now looking very clean, looking very smooth. And what you usually find in a Assetto Corsa Competizione is smooth as fast.
It's the old classic. I think Alan Prost might have said it as well, and it's a well-known thing of if I look like I'm going fast, I'm not. If I look like I'm going slow, I'm probably going fast. In a sense of, if the car is calm, if it is looking like it's just not really doing anything, it's just driving off the corner very cleanly as Malcolm Humphrey departs the final corner and does exactly what I'm not saying and spins straight out of Gollard's. Quite easy to do there as you're putting on power, especially if you're using all of that exit. Smooth is fast. I think that's one thing that we're all fairly well known in, but it's a harder concept to do than it is to explain, because being smooth and being calm in a qualifying session when you're trying to wrestle a car like this around as best you can on a tricky circuit, we're seeing even the top lot in this session as Lucas Müller goes for a spin, pushing it that little bit too far.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Is one of the other things that the drivers have been complaining about, or passing comment on rather, Lewis, is that when you said about going over the green concrete on the inside of the curves there. Now, while you absolutely can do it, and you will see drivers doing that to get the best times, the curbs on these British tracks, for some reason, seem to be incredibly abrasive to the tyres. You're seeing a lot of punctures and a lot of tyre degradation quite quickly through these new tracks.
Yeah, we've seen quite a lot of it being said, especially at Alton Park, where if their starting pressures are too low, you can get punctures from going over the curb. That comes down to them being, they may be very flat curbs, but they're serrated quite hard. You can see it there in that angle. You can see how much of a step down it is after every part of the curbing. And that is not good for your tyres. So you have to think about that when it comes to setting up the car and making sure that it is ready to take on all parts of the circuit. But obviously everything is a compromise in that sense. If you run high pressures, you're not going to be so good at certain other places. It affects you elsewhere, but it does keep you safe in a sense from those punctures. Although you're never fully safe. At the moment, though, safe at the top of the session. Not Lucas Müller, it's Müller. A little bit further up the road, a second over the top 10. Little bit of a surprise to see Igor Ogoroknikov 1.1 seconds off here at Donington.
It certainly is. I've got no doubt he will try to make improvements, but it's also great to see that his fan club are in the YouTube chat tonight. So a very good evening to Valerie Sumin. They're always very vocal on the YouTube chat. It's always great to see them up and arrival. I always have to mind my P's and Q's when I'm talking about Igor when they're on the stream.
Well, we've always got some fan clubs. That's what I do like about here at the Simgrid. I think most drivers have got their own little fan club. I think we should start our own. You had a bit of a fan club when you were doing your racing at Alton Park.
I did,
and of course,
yeah, but then you saw why. It's because I obviously do a lot of commentating about it, and to actually get behind the wheel is something I've not done for ages, and you could tell how far off the pace. But it was great fun to be up there, almost getting a nosebleed. But I do enjoy the little fan clubs that come about, and it's all great fun. It's the one thing I really like about SimGrid is that, and I've mentioned this quite a few times, Lewis, is that it feels like family. It feels like a big community where everybody supports everyone, and everyone just kind of has really nice things to say about everyone else. It's great fun, and that's the sort of mentality we kind of need in sim racing just now. Absolutely.
Remove the elitism and let's all just focus on having a good race, and that's what this is all about. And that's why I think it's great to have between seasons, the odd little race here and there. Do weekly races, a bit of fun as well as plenty of other stuff happening in the SimGrid. Go and check out the website if you want to come and take part. We're currently looking at Marcel Fusi, who's in 4th position at the moment, coming up towards Gollard's the final corner. He's got an Aston Martin ahead of him, though, that I don't think is going to cost him anything on this lap. It's okay. The number 39 has been off down into the Montreal hairpin. Marcel Fusi 3rd, Lucas Müller 26.424. So I think that's a step faster than where he was. We're getting a bit of a half a second improvement though from Rennie Siver. Let's see what he does towards the line, front row of the grid. Ooh, still a tenth and a bit off. That improvement from Lucas Müller might have just been enough to keep him safe, although I think he didn't improve by that much.
Yeah, it was about 0.2 of a second. It was a 1:26.6 that he had the last time before this one, and then it was 1:26.4. But look at that, though. The track has now just changed. We were talking about that about 10 minutes ago. Track has now changed to optimum. Now we're going to see the time start tumbling loose. This is where we're going to see the real fireworks begin.
And this is where if you're a driver that doesn't really do well under pressure, this is where things get a bit difficult. Although I do always say that if you do struggle with being put under pressure, if you do struggle with that kind of stuff, the only way to get better at it is to just do it more. And so they just need to get out there and just try and hammer in the lap times as best they can. It is immensely difficult, especially on a grid as strong as what we have here in the sim grid. Igor Ogorognikov out of the final corner, 10th position he is at the moment as someone's departed the session, goes up to 6th, 8th, 10th still off of pole position, but a decent improvement puts him inside the top 10.
And the fans go wild for Igor Ogorognikov. Now, you heard me laughing behind the scenes there, a little chuckle to myself as Maciek Malinowski using his team name as a status update. New voice channel update in his Discord. So we'll have to rush over there and spam it today.
There's a few drivers who use their team names as a way to pass on messages. Let's see what Malinowski does towards the line. Goes to 3rd. Decent improvement. 3.5 tenths off of the pole position, but still a fair improvement up. And with 5.5 minutes left to go in the session, there's still plenty more time to fire in a good lap time. Ben Hitz, we saw a couple of issues a little bit earlier in the session. With a few mistakes, but the number 97 currently on a lap, 1.1 seconds off of the pole time. A few drivers, though, David, remaining in the pit lane, probably waiting for the perfect moment to get out there. Oh,
they're cutting it fine, though, because when you've got a minute and a half for your outlap at least, and then you've got to get through, you know, you're having to think about space that's coming up. There is quite a lot of space, actually, between Coppice and McLean's just now, so some drivers might decide to pull out to that, but my eye is, at the moment, looking towards Muller up in pole position. He's just come round Melbourne hairpin just now, and coming up to Goddard, still improving, and could be on for a 1:26.3 just now as he comes round the final corner.
Let's see if there's going to be any improvement. The number 24 looking pretty decent. Could it be another hand on the pole position? Certainly is. 26.271. Nice lap time. There's Ben Hitz across the line, and it's 7th position. 1.2 seconds off the pole position. It's looking pretty dominant, though, from Mueller at the top. Few disqualifications down the back end of the field, as they're all just wanting to stay together, we're being told, because they're all mates. And to be fair, you know, why not? Thursday night, you've got a 90-minute race ahead of you, and also if you want to learn how to come up the order, why not follow Killian and Cormac Ryan Meenan? Learn what they're doing to come up the order, because as much as they're starting at the back of the grid, I don't think they're finishing there.
Do you know what it is? They heard us on comms saying that they're never together on the same part of the grid, and they thought challenge accepted.
Genius. Absolute genius. Sheldon Muscat, final corner, 18th position at the moment, 2.3 seconds off of the pole, improves by around about half a second and gets to within 1.8 and up into 16th position, well inside the top 20. Igor Ogorognikov, a little bit of traffic there from the number 26. I don't think he was particularly happy. It was 25 rather, it was Cataneo, and it cost him a little bit of time. I don't think either of them are particularly pleased with each other.
Yeah, that's a bit of an unusual line, but I'll tell you, joking aside, what he's done there is he's tried to give himself as much of a start off that corner. That's actually quite cool and quite cheeky in a way as well, because he's got more of an exit out of Goddard's there than he ever possibly could have coming out of that corner for real. So that's a little bit of a boost for him, and I'd be very interested to see how that impacts his lap time.
And he's not got too far down the road until the 25, who I think he feels that he messed up his lap. He's run wide anyway, so that one is just completely dealt with through the old hairpin, which, by the way, I think, so I've been to the museum here at Donington Park a few times, and there's some old track maps in there, and I genuinely don't know, I've never seen, like, that has never been a hairpin. As far as my as far as like looking at those track maps go, Szymanski goes to 4th anyway. Whilst I'm saying about the point, but I don't know why it's called the old hairpin, because I'm pretty sure there was never a hairpin there. That's a good time from Sheldon Muscat, 8th place.
Yeah, that's an excellent improvement for Sheldon Muscat there to head up there, and yeah, I mean he'll be happy at that with 8th place, but I just think it's a bit of a wasted opportunity for Malinowski, Ryan Meenan and Tauscher at the back there. Back to your old to your point about the old hairpin there, you're absolutely spot on. It's never really looked like one. it's always been maybe at most a 90 degree, whereas I would always presume a hairpin to be, you know, almost anything between sort of 120 to 180 degrees.
I always feel a hairpin is where you almost come fully back on yourself. That's a hairpin to me. I always see it where like someone's gone through a 90-degree corner, like, oh, he's gone through the hairpin. I'm like, that is not a hairpin. But, you know, fair enough. We've got plenty more track facts as well coming up for Donington Park. So those wondering which county it's in, don't you worry, we'll be dealing with that one later. Our focus on this qualifying session, Ben hits inside the top 10. So after those mistakes a little bit, so he's going to run wide though at the old hairpin, and that lap's going to lose itself some time. He's currently in 7th position, hits a little bit behind Jaguar, who we've been told has just come out of the pit lane. But with the time left on the session, there is not enough time for him to come round, start and complete another lap time. That is quite a wheel.
I'm looking at the team name, Shrimps Only. That is... I've got to say the SimGrid community is an eclectic community of all sorts, really. I
mean, that is quite impressive. Obviously the shrimp colour, you know, from the actual car. The green wheels, though, I sort of approve of, but also I hideously despise. It's a bit of a mix between both, but I'm sure we won't be missing him starting from the back end of the grid is Chris Kemple, but obviously ahead of those that have been disqualified, the likes of Malanovsky, Ryan Meenans, and what? I
was just a way to say Igor Gorodnikov here is just a way to come into Goddard's. He's got 6 seconds left. Oh, that was going to be so close, but I don't think he's going to get it.
No, I don't think he's going to get it either. No, certainly isn't going to cross the line now. So already reached the checker flag, and he'll be the first driver on the grid to take it. Did hear that from Michael Hamlet in our ear, saying that he's potentially a little bit too close and just missed out there. A bit of a shame, but still starting 6th place. You know, that you can still do something with the race from that position. It certainly isn't done yet. Our lone Jaguar in split one, Samir Fock, who's in 18th position, a good 2 seconds off, goes up to 13th, 1.5 seconds off. Not bad from the Jag.
Yeah, that's a decent improvement, although it's really not surprising to see that Jaguar, you know, not doing as well as some of the other cars from Foch there. Foch is a very, very talented driver, very fast driver, but again, it's just not to be with that car. Great lap there from Tony McCoffin in the 339 McLaren to get himself up to the P10, but this is it now. This is the last chance for all these drivers to set themselves up.
Saw that time from Danny Guisa come in there. It was the identical time of Rotundo. Bearing in mind, he only improved by a few hundredths of a second. If he'd have improved a little bit more, he would have got himself inside the top 10. Ridiculously close, as always, here in the sim grid. Luke Whitehead, one more corner to go. The final one to complete a lap time. Let's see what he does. Is there going to be any improvement? Currently in that 3rd position. Improvement up to the front row of the grid. There we go. Last gasp.
Yep, last gasp effort there from Whitehead, and what a cracking lap that was. So there you go. That is our starting lineup for the race ahead. Yeah, the Lucas Mueller, who's currently on pole position, with Luke Whitehead in behind, René Siver and Szymanski with Fuzi behind that. Igor Ognikov, the fan base will go wild for 6th place, see if he can improve in the race with Ben Hitz and the other Lucas Mueller. Don't get them confused. We will potentially quite a few times throughout the day. Sheldon Muscat and Tony McCoffin getting inside the top 10 at the final part of that session. Rotundo hangs on to 11th position just from Danny Guisa, who got himself an improvement, but not position, only 12th position for him. Samir Fock and Malcolm Humphrey, 14th position. Christopher Yan, and then Cataneo, Steele, Jackson. Where am I? Oh, I've got lost. There we are. Girato, Skula, Haskell and Temple, those that have set times. Chris Cooper joins the session a bit late, and the disqualifications coming in from Malanovsky and the 2 Ryan Meenans, Killian and Cormac Ryan Meenan, disqualifying as well for Michael Tauscher, all starting from the back end of the grid over this 90-minute race. Plenty of time for them to work their way up the order, obviously looking for a bit of fun on this Thursday evening. Very much looking forward to it. One of the things that I'd like to see as well is that the Aston Martins come through the race, because they're typically known more of a race pace car than a qualifying car, so we're being told. And you know, McLarens are incredibly fast, incredibly nimble on a light tank of fuel, but you add that extra weight, and I think they really suffer more than any of the cars that we've got on this grid tonight. So don't be surprised to see the Astons making a very early charge through the field.
And of course, a few pit stops ahead that they'll be forced to make. So I'm sure we'll see the grid order chop and change throughout the running of the race, as we did on Super Saturday, as we did when, obviously, mixed conditions as well, when we did the 90 minutes of Snetterton a couple of weeks ago. Plenty of racing up and down the order, and also plenty more coming up in the Sim Grid. A reminder that we've got the Sim Cup Season 3, Sprint Cup rather, Season 3, starting fairly soon as well with the Best of British. Plenty more coming up. And of course, this weekend, Next Gen Silverstone 12-hour Brain Tumor charity race. And what an event that'll be, of course. I'm thrilled at all the racing that we've got coming up.
It's fantastic that we get so much action here at the Sim Grid. It's always great to be a part of, but as you said, that 12-hour race at the weekend is going to be absolutely fantastic. We love our endurance events here anyway, but because that's for such a special cause, it's really just a great part to play in that for us.
No panic for those seeing the rain. It is not raining here at the moment, so we can take a bit of a breath. The sun is beautiful there on the horizon. I'm not going to go into my facts about the Aces colour thing on Unreal Engine 4 about how there's aperture and you can use the real world value of the sun, all the colours and blah blah. Boring stuff. It is sunny though. It is dry. It's not wet. We do have 2 forced pit stops. The way the forced pit stops work, for those of you just joining as well, I did see a little bit in the chat, the forced pit stop, you come in twice in the race. You must take a minimum of 1 litre for the pit stop to actually just count. So they're forced into the pit lane twice. You don't have a window as to when that's forced. You're open to do it whenever you wish. You can do it like somewhere halfway through the race, and you can leave your second one till the final, well, not quite the final lap, penultimate lap, we'll go with that. You can leave it till quite late, you can do it quite early. It is entirely up to you, it's in your hands. You just have to come into the pit lane twice at some point throughout the race. Now that strategy, David Christie, is going to be crucial to your track position today.
Absolutely. There's nothing other than driver skill that is going to play more crucial a role tonight than pit stop strategy. We've seen it time and time again where we've had these wild card moves that we never saw coming purely as a factor through pit stop strategy. So yeah, it's going to be a tale of 2 races. You're going to get to about maybe say 40 minutes, 30 minutes left to go, and then it's all starting to come clear. Like I said, we've seen it so often where cars that have maybe been in 3rd, 4th, 5th position after the final roll of the dice on for that win or on for a podium.
The sun, by the way, is not setting. I was wondering, I was like, is it setting or going down? It's rising. It is rising. It's 7 o'clock in the morning if you look at the top of your screen. And also, for those of you that were on Super Saturday, will note that it was going into turn 1 that they were all being blinded. Now, though, it's running up the hill towards McLade. Now, bearing in mind that is an uphill, that's uphill, a rise, meaning that sun is going to be right in your line of sight. Now, in the cars here, on that run up the hill, you can see almost nothing. If you're in the middle of the pack, lap 1, with that sun, it's going to be pretty tricky on their first run into McLaren's.
It certainly is. It certainly is, and we've seen that. I mean, we've not spoken all that much about the circuit, and we will do throughout the course of the race. But as they come along Schwantz Curve and up to McLaren's, I really strongly think that it's going to be a big contentious issue, because those drivers are really going to struggle to see anything. I mean, look at that, and obviously that's down trackside. But if you put that up, you know, a foot or two and replicate what's in the cockpit, yeah, that is going to be absolute madness, and it's just going to get worse as the morning progresses here.
If a car a few cars ahead of you has an issue through the old hairpin, you're going to struggle to see it. So awareness is going to be key. And speaking of contentious topics, there we go. That's just coming through Schwantz curve just after the old hairpin. Contentious topics, why not? Let's tackle it now, David Christie. What county is Donington Park in? Go for it. What do you think?
I will go.
Do you remember what I said?
I don't. I remember what you said. I just can't remember the county you said it was in. So it's not Derby though.
It's not Derbyshire. That's the common thing. It's got a Derbyshire postcode. I have to bring it up. Sorry, but it's got a Derby postcode, but it's not in Derbyshire. It's in Leicestershire, just by about 300 metres. In fact, about where. Thank you, thank you there, Mike Yao, podcast director. Hashtag not Derbyshire. Get it in chat. Where our camera is now is 300 metres behind us. Is the border for Derbyshire. So to Alex Goldschmidt, I don't know what an appropriate noise is to make on this broadcast, so I'll just say there. That'll do.
I just want to add the silent for dramatic effect there.
Of course.
13
I was going to stick my tongue out and make a noise, but I don't think that's professional.
I don't think that comes across in the voice, I've got to be honest with you.
Wow.
But, I mean, turning back to the race, 90 minutes, we've got no rain forecast, we've suddenly find ourselves in the provinces of Italy, it would seem, weather-wise. It's very unusual to see this time of year a dry, warm day. Never mind 10 degrees, I'll take that. Look, we've got a 90-minute race coming up, and there's some huge names that are within striking distance. Sheldon Muscat, for instance, putting himself up into the fifth row of the grid there in 9th position. You've got Igor Ogorodnikov, who you can never look past, but he is a proper Marmite driver. He either is amazingly well and is in with a shout of a win, or you just never see him for the whole of the race. And then you've got the likes of the Ryan Meanings at the back trying to fight their way through, as well as Maciek Malinowski and the likes.
It's for them. It's when they take that first pit stop, which is going to be crucial, because they can take it quite early and get themselves some nice clean air and try and move their way up the order that way. Or they can leave them quite late. If we remember back to Silverstone, obviously in very, very different conditions. Silverstone, did I say? I meant Snetterton. But if you remember back to there, it was Niels van der Keuken who left pit stops quite late, ended up finishing that race in second place. We've seen it a few times where some drivers have used their pit stops fairly late in the race, and it seems to be there's a trend of if you're using it later in the race, it seems to have more advantage. That's kind of the way that I would go, rather than using one early and potentially getting caught up in traffic. But for them, the timing, if any of those starting at the back of the grid, if they want to win this race, the timing of that pit stop is so unbelievably critical.
Absolutely, it's going to be massively, massively important to see how that one pans out. We spoke a little bit about it a couple of minutes ago, but again, I don't think that we can possibly, Lewis, understate just how important this is. I think the first pit stop will be important, but the second one is going to be absolutely the deal breaker for a lot of these drivers tonight.
Well, I'm not going to pick a driver for a victory, because I think it's a bit of a hard call, because there's a lot of drivers that could, and so I'm not going to ask you to either. But I will ask you, David Christie, what car is going to win this race? Is it going to be a McLaren, Aston Martin, Bentley, Jag?
It's going to be. I was going to joke and say the Jag, but in all honesty, I think it's going to be an Aston Martin that takes the win.
All right, well, I will go against you just because. I'll let you go first. That's my tactical reason. I will go for a McLaren then, because why not? About to start the race then, 90 minutes ahead of us here at Snetterton in the sim grid. British Classics, and what a sight it is. Coming through the final corner and departing the circuit was Marcel Fusi in the number 94. He'll be able to get back in line. The shot as we run into Redgate, the sun rising behind us, an hour and 30 minutes on the clock and 2 pit stops ahead. We are underway here at Donington. Lucas Muller is going to be leading the way from Whitehead, who's got a little bit of a dive from Siver on the inside. You see Fusi there in the mid-pack as well in that white and red car, trying to work his way up and finding any way through. Igor Ogorodnikov as well in the background. Oh, it's Igor Ogorodnikov who's got the run. It's that in the number 41. That is Igor, and then firing off into the background. Saw that just coming down the crane of curves and comes straight off and into the wall. Igor Ogorodnikov, though, with an aggressive move running into the old hairpin. That might have been a little bit too much on the inside of the number 5 of Siver.
You hear that is the sonic boom of YouTube chat going wild for Igor Ogorodnikov getting himself up there into that third place. That boy does not hang about. This is exactly what I said. It's all or nothing from Igor. You either get him going full gas into the first 15 minutes of it, where all hell breaks loose, or you just never see him at all. As we see tyre barrier going absolutely flying through the Fogarty-S's here, and we've got a proper 3-car melee going off at the Fogartys.
Yeah, got someone off in the right side. He picks. There's some further contact. That's just the one in the bottom right hand of your screen. Looking further down the pack as there's a bit of a dive down the inside and going straight on. There's it's quite calamitous in the background. Our focus towards the front end of the field. How Jaguar had that good of a start, I do not know. Marcel Fusi is like, no, see you lads. I don't like the sight of this at all. I am out of here. I'm going to tick off potentially his first pit stop of the evening already. We're looking at the other Lucas Müller, who's just ahead of Sheldon Muscat, moved up to 6th position. Danny Guisa as well up to 7th in all of this, having got by McOffervan as well. And the 339 up a couple of positions, but not quite as much as the likes of Danny Guisa.
I've got to say, Lewis, that is actually might be a bit of an inspired tactic from Fusi there. Knowing that he's got himself through that first lap successfully without losing too much time. At the most, he's maybe 4 or 5 seconds behind the leader. Fire into the pits, get the fuel out of the way, get your first pit stop. Remember, it's only 1 litre that they need to take in these pit stops. Wow, we'll keep an eye on him, but that could be huge.
Yeah, I'm liking that call. I really do. Again, I've said this all the time. I love drivers that think big picture. And right now, Marcel Fusi is just sort of like, if I'm in this battle, there is quite a large chance that I could be involved in a crash. Maybe seeing what was happening between Ogoroknikov and Sever and thinking, look, I'm just going to get out of this. I don't want to be a part of Unicorns of Love, as René Sever is driving for. I'm just going to get out of it. I'm going to get into some clean air, and I'm going to hammer in some lap times as best I can and try and work my way up the order later on. Because in clean air, you can set those times. When you're battling as hard as you can for these kind of positions, it's hard to set those kind of good times, and we will only know whether that strategy works for Marcel Fusi in a good hour and 26 minutes time, because before that, I don't think we'll have any sort of clue.
I don't think we will. The other thing about that strategy, Lewis, is remember, because this lead group are tightly bunched up, relatively tightly bunched up, he's now in clean air. He can just fire in hot laps left, right and centre, make time. I mean, this could be just a massive 3,000 IQ strategy going on here.
Looking at Ben hits there. Oh, that's the number, what's that? The number 39 in the background. I think that might have been Girato. Oh, and there was further stuff happening. So it's been a little bit tricky in the background. Who was that? I swear it was an orange McLaren who went off down the Craner curves on lap 1. There's been a few drivers a little bit further down. It was Hitson Jamansky, as we're being told, that have been sent down the order. How did Cormac Ryan Meenan get to 9th in all of this? How fast is he coming up the order? Wasting absolutely no time. Rotundo's going to go wide at the hairpin. The number 12 of Cormac Ryan Meenan, that's 2 positions on this lap, up to 9th position from the back of the grid.
Yep, and an amazing job there from Ryan Meenan as well, almost getting stretched out into the Fogarty-S's there. Oh my goodness me, that's the 97 that you see going flying off the track there. Oh dear me. But yeah, back to the Ryan Meenans. I mean, what an amazing job. Ryan Meenan Killian dropping down to 20th there, obviously coming into some sort of an issue there. So 10 places, split up the 2 of them.
Yeah, he definitely got sent there into the final corner, seeing the Shrimp Cup deciding to go straight on there. Kempel just sort of getting out of everyone's way a little bit. Let's take a look at this replay. This is what happened to Killian Ryan Meenan. You've got a couple of Aston Martins around him, or is this Cormac? No, it's number 23. Oh, there's a dive. There's the contact. And there is being sent straight on from Killian Ryan Meenan. That wasn't really on that move, I don't think. But, I mean, maybe you could say he covered a bit too late or whatever, but regardless, that car is not fast. Has he been off again? We've been told he's been off again. Killian Ryan Meenan not having quite the same day as Cormac, who's up inside the top 10 already. For Killian Ryan Meenan, just a venture slightly up the grid and then slightly back down. It hits in front of him in the number 97. Oh, he does it himself. A little bit too much speed, a little bit of a wobble coming in, maybe too close, took some front air off of the car and just went for a little bit of a spin at the old hairpin.
Yeah, that's not the best, but you saw that car twitching away something crazy just on the entrance to the hairpin there. There's the point I was making earlier, actually. We saw the McLaren domination early on into qualifying, and now, look at that, you've only got 3 McLarens in the top 9, in the top 8, and then it's all Aston Martins, and Igor Rodnikov now trying to catch down on Luke Whitehead.
Yeah, 3.3 seconds at the moment, but expect those lap times to start coming down, pulling away from Sever, who've pulled very, very clear of Muller in behind. We're looking at Tauscher, 14th position on the back of Foch, with McGoffin just ahead of this, looking pretty pacey. Nice to see Foch going up the grid in that Jaguar, the number 8 car, just defending to the inside. That was actually quite nice from him. Didn't really worry too much about Tauscher in behind, who was going to try and force his way through at Coppice, just focusing on his line and trying to get onto the back of the McLaren ahead. Is that the 339? Certainly is, of McGoffin directly ahead of this as they go through the Fogarty S. Oh, Tauscher, though, run a little bit too good. And if he'd have just timed it a little bit better, he could have gone for the cutback and maybe cleared both of them. He's going to try and make it 3 wide into the hairpin, though. McGoffin on the inside with Tauscher going through the middle and Foch just being almost muscled out of the way. There was no contact. That was good stuff between the three of them. A little bit brave there from Tauscher, and Foch is not a fan of that as he's going to try and go down the inside. A little bit of a hit there from Jackson behind. Opens the door. Jackson's not going to take advantage of that as Foch is going to hold clear. Further contact in the background as we're looking at Skula. Ben Hitz as well involved in that, I think Cataneo. So plenty of action heading out into the final couple of hairpins. But wow, trying to make it 3 wide there, that is brave.
Well, this is an uneventful race, isn't it? Not. A fantastic action all the way through the field here as you see Ben Hitz still trying to go side by side. I think that's Jonathan Steele that he's still fighting off there. Or is that, no, that's Cataneo that he's busy duking it out with just now. My eyes, I've got to be honest, right, I'm watching the timing screens for Marcel Fouzy. 22nd place now. He is lapping faster than the 11 cars in front of him right now. Incredible pace that he's making through.
That was a huge moment from Hitz we just saw there. That was absolutely massive. Did very well to hang on to it in the number 97, but not only that, but to not lose a place to Cataneo, to Steele, and Haskell as well behind, because he's got an awful lot of pressure as the sun is rising. It's going to get a little bit easier to see visibility-wise down the back end of the circuit there into McLean's, into Coppice. Those right-handers over the back end of the lap. I will say with Fouzy, though, you say he's faster than the 11 cars ahead, considering that he was, 5th when he came in, and we know that qualifying-wise he'd done quite well. 11 cars isn't enough. He needs to be faster than more of that, and we're being told that Lucas Müller is setting the fastest lap of the race and is going incredibly fast. 3.7 seconds clear at the front end of the field for Fouzy. Oh, I'm not sure it's quite good enough, his pace, which wouldn't have been good enough with or without pit stop regardless, because that pit stop's not going to change his lap times. He's just getting out of the way early, but I'm a little concerned.
It depends on fuel strategy, because as well, if Muller is on a lower fuel strategy to get that pace, then obviously he's going to have to pit sooner than potentially Marcel Fouzy. It's a great move up the inside.
Brilliant.
Now, there's another driver that we didn't speak about there. Maciej Malinowski was at the back of the grid as well. P7.
Fantastic stuff. Gained 17 places in the opening 10 minutes of the 90 minutes of Donington here. That's an incredible drive at the moment. It was a very good move on Sheldon Muscat. I must say that Sheldon Muscat did very well to not fight it too hard going into Coppice. Saw the car coming and just went, right, okay, I'm going to just live to fight another day. He's got battles as well behind as Humphrey's trying to get by him. We focus on Danny Guisa up the order on the back of the number 55 of Lucas Müller, and that battle for the top 5 as for McLaren just darting out in the background there. That isn't for position, is it? Or is it Jan? I don't know. I don't think that one was for position, though. The McLaren that was darting out in the back. And we're just getting a little bit caught out. Oh, a little bit wide there from Muller coming out of Redgate. Maybe opening the door for Danny Guisa to try something into the old hairpin. Not close enough for my money, but he might just Matt Neal his way through. Doesn't do so, and the 14 backs out.
Yeah, that Muller is really struggling with that Aston right now. You've seen it several corners in a row, just going way too wide with it, getting two wheels onto the grass, and that really compromises his entry and exit to the next corner. But this is Jonathan Steele at the moment, but we're going to go to battle. This is for third place just now. Jaguar Ogrodnikov having to defend there from Sever, something rotten. Rene Sever really putting him under pressure, and I think it's going to be a matter of time before Ogrodnikov cracks.
Yeah, he's under an awful lot of pressure. Hasn't had the pace to close down to Whitehead, and maybe Sever thinks he does. Looks a little bit wide around the Melbourne hairpin, but now he's going to be getting close, coming into Goddard's, into the final corner. Backs out of it though, maybe eyeing up a move into Redgate. Jaguar Ogrodnikov. Oh, he hooks up the apex a little bit, but maybe just losing a touch of time. But it's going to be enough for him to defend into Redgate. He doesn't even have to worry about it. That might have been the only opportunity for Sever, because he looks much better through the penultimate hairpin at the Melbourne Loop. I worry if that was like his prime opportunity to go through. Hearing as well that Humphrey has spun and is now dropping down the order, and also for good measure has come into the pit lane to serve his first stop of the afternoon.
Wonder what's happening with there. It could have been contact from another car there. We saw him battling. I think that was Sheldon Muscat that he was involved in the battle, or was that Gusett?
No, it was Sheldon.
Yeah. So again, we'll wait and see. We'll see if we can get a replay from Mike Yao. The other thing about Rene Sever and Jaguar Ogrodnikov, Lewis, is of course these two aren't really, it's not like Ogrodnikov is slowing down massively. It's not like Sever is getting faster massively. These two have been, nose to tail since the start.
Well, let's take a look. This is McCoffervan, and diving to the inside there. Oh, there we go. There's a bit of contact, and that is what happened there. Foch getting through as well. That was a little bit, I swear they were in 12th position at that point. So McCoffervan had already been dropped down the order. Obviously, potentially another incident, because I swear it was a little bit higher than that. Either way, I'm losing my mind, because here we are seeing the battle for third position as Rene Sever, getting chopped up a little bit there by Jaguar Ogrodnikov. When we cut back to it, they were trading door paddles there, and they're looking pretty aggressive at the early stages of this race. Where there's still an hour and 15 minutes to go, and they're fighting as if it is the final lap.
I'll tell you what, Rene Sever is a very brave boy, because I wouldn't like to be in that position going door to door with Jaguar Ogrodnikov, because he has got a very, very mean temper to him. And Sever tries to fight up the inside at, oh wow, that was an amazing move there at McLaren's, but not happening. Sever all over the back, and Ogrodnikov is under so much pressure right now, but that was a sign of intent at Goddard's. That was a sign that Jaguar Ogrodnikov will not be handing this place over, and that Sever is going to have to literally wrestle that final podium position from him.
And it does seem that it's around this area of the circuit that Sever's looking pretty good. Melbourne hairpin, a little bit of distance between the two. There is also pressure behind, as Malinovsky did get by Muller and is now putting pressure on the back of Danny Guisa. So there's plenty of action, as Malinovsky from the back of the grid isn't too far away from getting onto the podium, which is absolutely insane. Running a little bit wide there is Sever, trying to hook up the final part of the lap as we go side by side. The right hand side of your screen, you're seeing that battle as Malinovsky is on the back of Danny Guisa. Left hand side of your screen in the top, it is Sever against Ogrodnikov. Plenty of battles here at Donington, and how far up the order can Malinovsky go? He got by Muller, and Muller has dropped 2.5 seconds back, nearly into the clutches of Sheldon Muscat. So not sure as to how he got by, if there was anything that needed to be investigated of that, or maybe just losing a little bit of pace and confidence is Lucas Muller. Sever not losing any confidence, but is desperate to get by Ogrodnikov.
Oh, this is a little bit nail-biting, shall we say. Sever really not letting this one go whatsoever. Just watching the timing screens as well as your race leader, Lucas Muller. Last time round, before this lap that he's put in, was a 1:26.4. He did a 1:27.2 this time round, and that is significantly faster than the majority of everyone else on the track, and by a long way. And I wonder if that means that he is fueled much leaner than the other cars. So could we see a pit stop from Mueller in the next 5 laps?
Very much a possibility. Although, if you're not taking a lot of fuel at the start, I think of it this way: is that every litre of fuel that you take on the start is a litre you don't have to fill up in the stop, right? Which is takes quite a lot of time, and obviously there's a fine balance between taking too much time. Who's that who's been off the road? Oh, I think it was a car going a lap down. But that is the perfect opportunity, as Kempel was the car in the background that's stuck. Perfect opportunity for Sever to try and get by Ogorognikov. They were so close heading into Redgate. Now going around the outside, the number 5 of Sever. Not enough. The 41 of Ogorognikov hangs on. A little bit of contact between the two of them as they depart the corner. Guisa behind is hanging on for Malinovsky. This race is absolutely on it. Malinovsky was a little bit too fast through the Fogarty S's and just ran it a little bit too far over the curbs, and maybe just cost himself a little bit of time, because he's seeing these two up the road thinking, right, I need to get by because I need to get after them, because Ogorognikov and Sever, if I'd get the feeling now that Sever is quite a bit faster than Ogorognikov, and if he gets by, might start pulling away, and I would get the sense that Malinovsky is very much in the understanding position of this.
I came into this race saying that the Astons were going to show incredible race pace and really come through the order, and I'm being proven wrong here. Look at the pace that Sever's got, look at the pace that Malinowski's got, look at the pace that Cormac Ryan Meenan has got. We could very well see a top 6 lockout for the McLarens right now. I mean, we're only 15 minutes into the race, but it's the slower technical sections where Sever is making all this. Down here at the Melbourne hairpin, look at the exit that he gets out, and then into Goddard as well. That's where he makes his money right now.
Yeah, where is that opportunity going to open? See, there's a drive-through penalty for Killian Ryan Meenan down in 23rd position. So a day that's gone bad is getting worse. Defensive from Yigar Ogorognikov pulls it over to the left-hand side of the track, right-hand side of your screen. Plenty of battling as well. Ben hits on his return up the order, getting by. That's McCoffervan down at the Melbourne hairpin. Battle for 7th position as well. Cormac Ryan Meenan trying to get his way up yet another position on the back of Lucas Muller, who I said before did not have the pace to stay on the back of Malinovsky as he's falling a little bit down the order. Did do a good job of moving his way up. I think he qualified about 8th, although they both run wide. They have been already Sever. This is his perfect opportunity at McLean's. He's going to get through, go for the undercut. There's the contact between Yigar Ogorognikov. Coming through the middle though, Danny Guisa, wow, goes up into 3rd position, and Malinovsky through with him as well. Contact between the two of these, and the battle for 3rd and 4th becomes the battle for 5th and 6th, and the battle for 5th and 6th becomes the battle for 3rd and 4th.
Oh, that's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you saw there, Yigar Ogorognikov slowed down to let Malinowski get back and get recovered. But I personally start thinking to myself, you know, that's great sportsmanship, and I love to see that. However, for the race, I don't know if race control are going to take all that much notice of that. You know, he's going to get punished for that anyway, because Sever has lost places because of that. So 100% will get punished for that. But if it was me well, it wouldn't be me because I wouldn't be that far up the grid. But if it was me in that position, I'd just be going for it. But great sportsmanship from Yigar Ogorognikov to let Sever take that place back.
For sure, yeah. I get where you're coming from. You know, you're going to get a penalty almost regardless. So might as well take it a little bit further up the road and, you know, try and salvage a little bit from it. Although the only question that I would have from that is, was Sever overcooking the corner regardless? I think he was just about to keep it on the road, but he was a mile away from the apex, and that's the only thing that would put a bit of a question on that whole thing. Speaking of missing the apex at McLean's, there goes Guisa, and through goes Malinovsky. Probably the easiest move he'll do after trying to fight his way by. Just the door was wide open for him, and he went through. Cormac Ryan Meenan as well got through on Lucas Muller for 7th position. So there are moves happening quite a bit. The only one that we're not seeing moves happen realistically is up at the lead, who Lucas Muller is leading by 8.6 seconds. A monster lead ahead of Luke Whitehead, who in turn is 11.2 seconds ahead of Malinovsky.
Wild stuff there. But more importantly, I think we need to get Google Maps on the go for Guisa so he can find the apex on that corner, because that was so wide at McLean's there. I think it was what we saw the previous lap from Sever there, just overcooked it and just flushed the car out wide and pushed them down. But again, how much are these Astons struggling for any sort of pace right now? The McLarens are just looking absolutely resplendent here at Donington. They are loving this weather, they're loving the track right now, and they just look unstoppable.
Sheldon Muscat missing the apex there. Another, to further your point, another Aston Martin looking so strong in the race as it was potentially even in qualifying, as missing the apex at Redgate. And just the thing with these Astons, they just seem to be struggling on the front end. Again, did not bite on the turn-in at the old hairpin, just carrying a little bit too much speed through the corner. But when you're racing an Aston Martin, you're looking at a McLaren going through the corner being like, oh, I'll take it at that speed then. And the front end's just saying, absolutely not, I can't do it. And so there's obviously something with these Astons that's just not quite got that front end bite. Obviously, the weight differential of both cars is wildly different. Aston has more weight over the front end, McLaren more weight towards the centre and rear. So it's, you know, the balance on the cars are wildly different. Of course they would be. But for these Astons, I'm not like it. I wouldn't want to be in an Aston right now. Malinovsky up from, I believe it was 24th on the grid to 3rd onto the podium. Danny Guisa, though, is keeping in touch, at least for now, and don't rule out the number 5 of Sever as well, focusing for Lucas Muller with Tauscher closing in behind.
Yeah, so many different stories that are unfolding at the moment, Lewis. Another one that I'm keeping my eye on is the number 94, currently in 18th place. You can see there Marcel Fusy, our earliest pit stop with just one pit stop left to go. He is the furthest up the field who has already done a pit stop. So again, we're not sure on how that's going to work out. But what a battle we've got going on here from Muller and from Tauscher as well. Really, really struggling for any sort of pace. And you called that out about 10 minutes ago about the fact that Muller was really just not anywhere right now.
Yeah, and his pace, he looked really slow through the old hairpin there. Tauscher behind was bumping the rear end, a little bit of Morse code on the back, not getting the cutback through McLaren's that he'd wish. Maybe going to try something into Coppice. He's on the inside of the 55, but not timing his run too well. I think the 55 of Muller has overdone his tyres in the early stages of this race. Only less than 25 minutes into it, and potentially already starting to struggle. Maybe they'll come back to him. That's going to be nearly overcooking it as we ride on board with a 16 of Tauscher. We've got a bit of lap traffic as well, as Kempel there gets just covered off by Muller, diving it to the inside, trying to defend the 16 to the outside. Contact between the two as Muller runs a little bit wide, and I think as well maybe Tauscher was turning in a little bit too early. 15-second time penalty. Cormac Ryan Meenan ahead of this by 3 seconds after his rise up the order. Obviously something has happened for Cormac Ryan Meenan, and the 7th place man from the back of the grid gets himself dropped down the order with a 15-second time penalty that he served when he comes in for his next stop. It was contact between himself and Humphrey, who's now down to 21st. And so maybe not the cleanest rise up the order, but it's kind of one of those things. Sometimes you just need to keep your skills sharp.
Yeah, it's awkward and you hate to see it, but again, penalties are going to happen when you've got this close racing, when you've got such difference in speeds and closing speeds with these cars. We've seen McLarens are so fast and so nimble, but they've still got to safely navigate their way around the traffic, getting his way up. And so obviously his rise to the top 10 hasn't been clean enough for race control and getting that 15-second penalty. So he'll serve that very, very shortly. Nice run out of Coppice there for Michael Tauscher. Side by side down the run to the Fogarty S's. Surely not too wide.
Neither of them's going to yield though. Beautiful stuff. Space given between the two. Tauscher's going to get through on Muller. Neither of them wanted to yield in that scenario. That was brilliant stuff, and how to give racing room. Running a little bit wide as Tauscher opens the door again for Muller to come back through. And this fight continues as Sheldon Muscat goes for a spin down at the Melbourne hairpin, allowing these two to run off into the distance. Tauscher to the inside. Is he going to run wide this time? A bit of a block pass down the inside, just holds it nicely on the apex. The 55 has been passed now, but is it going to stand? That run into Redgate may open the door for Muller again. The right hand side of your screen, you see Danny Guisa, who's just at the moment leading Sever as that battle for 4th position closing up.
Wow. That was an awesome little bit of sportsmanship from the two of them. Don't bet on it. Tauscher is gone now. You saw the fact that Muller is essentially driving a tugboat at this point because he is just dropping all the way back. However, look at this. This is a cracking onboard shot with Rennie Sever on the back of Gisa at just 0.2 of a second between the two of these cars. And Yiger Ogorodnikov again in the Aston going backwards. Is this the fact that we're going to see now four McLarens in the top 4?
I do get that feeling. The Aston Martins at the moment are looking pretty lethargic. Speaking of a non-Aston Martin, we go to Foch, who's under pressure from the 97 of Ben Hitz, going to the inside of Coppice, doesn't get through, and all of that. McCoffin, who has had a couple of incidents today, being spun around at the Melbourne hairpin, being one of them, is right on the back of this. Qualified just inside the top 10 on the final lap of the session in qualifying. Now finds himself in 15th. Hitz going to run up a little bit wide there through Fogarty and maybe open the door. Right hand side of your screen in that side by side. There we go. We've got Rennie Sever still on the back of the number 14. No way through. Over does Redgate a little bit there, I think. Every time he's going through the crane of curves behind the number 14, he's just losing a bit more grip on the front end. Cormac Ryan Meenan and Lucas Muller come into the pit lane to serve their first of 2 this afternoon. Going through the old hairpin, Grease is going to run a little bit wide. They're both running wide. Rennie Sever, if you're going to run wide the car ahead, you must make sure that you're not doing it because you can then take an advantage from it. 5-second time penalty to Yiger Ogorodnikov. David, everything is happening constantly. We're half an hour into this race and stuff still keeps happening.
Well, I tell you what, you better have your popcorn and your fizzy juice at the ready because we are just getting started with the main presentation, ladies and gentlemen. This is only going to get more intense over the next hour. Do not go anywhere. Keep yourselves locked into this one. The SimGrid Best of British. And yeah, this is exactly what to expect because Ogorodnikov, now to be fair, I think they've been more lenient on him because he gave that place back to Sever there. I think if he hadn't have, and he had, as I suggested, kept his foot in, we've seen it from others, that would have been a 15-second penalty for him.
Yeah, nicely viewed from race control, sort of applying a bit of a gentleman's rule. Still getting a slap on the wrist for doing wrong, but not ruining the evening. You see Ogorodnikov just in the background there in that red and white Aston Martin. Sever was looking to the inside, but not feeling close enough on the Aston. That V12 just keeping him ahead through the start-finish straight into Redgate. And Sever's just not finding his way through. Right side of your screen, you've got Foch, you've got Ben Hitz as well, riding on board with Ben Hitz in that shot. And right now, if you're sort of like the third car in a train, you know, if you're in that train, so in this sense for McCoffin, I'm thinking I'm coming into the pit lane, I am serving my stop and I'm going as far as I can. Speaking of serving stops, P16, Fuzi, pit stop again, was our first pit stop of the evening on only the end of the first lap, and now is coming in to serve his second pit stop. Will be going to the checkered flag after both stops complete. How is that going to work for the 94? That is a brave call on strategy.
Yeah, I'm going to call it now. It's not 45 minutes, yes, absolutely, but I think that final 15 minutes he's going to lose so much pace with those tyres. As you see, Samir Foch really struggling with that Jag, and I've got to be honest, right, I love that Jag. It is such a wonderful, wonderful car, and every time you see it, you're like, I want you to do well, but you just know in your heart that it's not really going to do as well as you want it to. And in goes to the pits, Gusa. But yeah, back to Fuzi and taking his 3 pit stops. I think he'll do well in terms of getting up into the top 10, possibly even maybe 6th or 7th, but I think taking that early pit stop, yeah, I don't think that's going to work out too well for him.
I'm also in that sort of mindset as we see this battle between Foch and Hitz. Hitz to the outside in the final corner, very much committed on the brakes in the number 97. I think Foch is coming into the pit lane. No, he's not. Held a very, very tight line around the final corner, but no, Hitz gets the position done. Steele in the background came into the pit lane. That was the Aston that departed the way of pit lane and already came in. Little interesting to see that the Jaguar Foch wasn't really fighting Hitz's McLaren there, but maybe just felt it wasn't really worth it in all things at this point in the race. Cormac Ryan Meenan working his way up the order. Cooper being passed. We're hearing that Hitz has been off the road. There is Hitz. There's McCoffervan almost getting through, going into McLane's, but the position has gone back the other way. So not fighting in the final corner, has ended up swinging back his way anyway, and Foch gets back up into what is now 10th place, courtesy of pit stops.
How much more British can you get, managing to get a position back by doing absolutely nothing? That is a fantastic, fantastic performance there from Samir Foch there. He gets himself back up in the top 10, and yes, the underdog story lives on. Come on, the Jag.
I mean, I've had those kind of races where you start like, 30th or something, you get up to somewhere inside the top 10. I've had it before where you get up to like 5th, 6th, 7th or something. And I remember like recalling it over the race. Some of these races, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. That's quite a lot of positions in that time. Sort of like I overtook one car, everyone else just fell off, and it's like, well, that's easy. Rotundo, though, with Sheldon Muscat on the rear end, seeing a few pit stops coming in. We'll get into that in a moment, as Rotundo's defending the position from the 62, running a little bit wide through Redgate. So Rotundo getting that move done, because I'm pretty sure he was behind Sheldon Muscat fairly recently. So moving up to what is now 7th position, what will become 6th position, as our pit stops of Yiga Rognikov, Jackson and Foch all in the pit lane, serving their first pit stop of the afternoon. Only one driver completing 2, and that will be Marcel Fusi. Massive snap there on the exit of the old hairpin from Ben Hitz, as we're seeing some further side-by-side coming through the crane of curves. Just keeping it ahead is Lucas Muller, as Cormac Ryan Meenan, post-pit stop, post-penalty, is right on the back of Lucas Muller, maybe showing that Muller's pit stop was quite slow, potentially taking a set of tyres, although he's not dropped off that much from Guisa, so maybe Cormac Ryan Meenan's just been on an absolute charge pace-wise, because he wasn't that far away from this lot when he came in. He was a little bit ahead of Muller, but behind Guisa, I think, when he came in for his pit stop quite a while ago, and he had that penalty to serve.
I think the thing is that Cormac also had that penalty, had a 15-second time penalty, but then it was only a couple of seconds off of Muller because of that pit stop. I honestly think Muller is just, and I don't mean this in that Muller's that slow, I think that Aston is that slow. It is just an absolute brick tonight. What a move!
Whoa.
On the inside of the Melbourne hairpin. Hats off to Cormac Ryan Meenan. Now you know that the Aston's not even got a reply to it. Every other time we've seen down to Goddard's, the Aston, look at how far back it is. It's 2 car lengths already. He's just been absolutely mugged.
Muller could not get that turned in. Hit the first apex into the Melbourne hairpin, but that second one, it was just drifting wider and wider and wider. And whilst it was quite obvious that he was going to pull a slightly tighter line, Cormac Ryan Meenan was like, that is my opportunity to go through. Brilliant stuff, and very observant from Cormac to get through. A brilliant move, realistically. That is fantastic stuff. The other Lucas Muller, this one being Lucas Muller, comes into the pit lane to serve his first pit stop from a very dominant position in this race. How will that fare later? Yiga Rognikov, after a 5-second time penalty and 1 pit stop, is behind Marcel Fusi, who's done both. How's that happened? I think he's got issues, as Cantaneo just absolutely flies by Yiga Rognikov. I think we've got problems, and the fan base will be having their hearts sink a little bit here, as the 41, concerningly, is dropping backwards.
Yeah, it's not the best, is it? I mean, it's very strange. You'll see Ogorodnikov try to make his way back through, but just to highlight something here, right? McLaren's, they're averaging their lap pace 127, maybe say 127.7. Oh, look at that, Ogorodnikov! Wow! That was a move and a half up through the Fogarty S's. He was not having any of that, was he?
Cataneo did not want that at all, as here comes through Luke Whitehead, the race leader, to put a lap on these two, not having been in the pit lane. Hold on to your point, because we'll get it once once Luke Whitehead's passed Yiga Rognikov. I'm just concerned as it goes straight on into the final corner of Goddard's, maybe just to let him through. Certainly does. Nice. That was actually nice. Bit of back marking there. Maybe picked up a little bit too much rubbish on his tyres, but Luke Whitehead, our race leader, is through. Back to your point.
Yes, so the McLaren's 127.5 to 127.9, that's their average lap pace. The Astons are doing 128.5s to 128.7s across the board. That's about a second a lap from the top 5 McLarens. It's absurd.
Yeah, that is not where you'd be like, oh well, maybe it's just the drivers or whatever. No, there's something with those Astons that just makes them not very good in the race. But if you get yourself around another Aston, you can have a decent battle as Humphrey, working his way up the order, gets by Chris Cooper there. Not really too much of a hard fight put up from Chris Cooper. Got the move done realistically out of Coppice and into the Fogarty S, just lift out of it. Christopher Yan, who's been moving up the order, he's on the back of McCoffervan, who's yet to stop. All of the top 8, with the exception of Lucas Mueller, who's in 5th position, have yet to stop, yet to come into the pit lane, and we're still awaiting for their arrival. 53 minutes left in this race, and you'd suspect they'll be coming down soon, although we know the tank can go really, really far in this car. I think it's an hour and 10. The tank can do something in that vein.
An hour and 5 to an hour and 10.
Yeah, so they can go quite far, which is why Fuji came in a little bit of a while ago to serve his final pit stop. But I'm not sure. I'm just not. I'm with you. I am not sure that that's going to work for Fuji. The call that we're getting, and I believe this is fully correct, because he hasn't changed tyres in either of his 2 stops, and obviously he's not going to come in again. So he's doing the entire hour and a half race on 1 set of tyres, which is another question mark. Although he does save time in the pit stop, Lucas Muller runs wide, and Humphrey is now right on the back of him.
Here's an interesting point. The gap from Fuji to the leader, 82 seconds. Oh, and Juice has got a drive-through penalty, so that's going to hand another place over. So that's a drive-through penalty and another pit stop as well. So essentially, two ventures to the pit lane. So now we've only really got 3 cars in front of him that have only got 1 pit stop left to do. Cormac, Ryan, Meenan. You've got Muller, and then you've got Humphrey in as well. So, yeah, I take that back. Fuji might be on for a top 5 right now.
I'm still not sure. I'm sceptical because the pace is going to get worse and worse for him as the race runs on. As cutting back to the inside. Oh my goodness me. Oh, that was clumsy from the 7 and from the 55. Lucas Muller came over to chop Humphrey. Humphrey tried diving it back down the inside. We've seen that between Mansell and PK going into Stowe at Silverstone back in the 90s, and that was very much in a similar accordance to that. I think it might have been a bit of misjudgment from Humphrey on that cutback. Just let's say he was trying to get back to the left hand side to try and dive it back down, and just misjudged it and mistimed it. So yeah, Humphrey I think might get a penalty for that, and by might I'd almost say it's a slam dunk.
I would say it's almost certainly going to be a penalty for that one. That's very much frowned upon. The fact that you kind of saw that accident happening about 5 seconds before it did kind of lends itself to the fact that you know it's going to be a penalty. If it's premeditated, then absolutely. Here we go with the replay. This is on the entrance to the Melbourne hairpin, and again, it's right here that you can see it, and we see that how slow that car in front is. That is not so great. So for Muller, who was slow at the Melbourne hairpin again, right, fair enough, departs the corner and then comes back across, and you could maybe say that his move back across was maybe a little bit late or whatever, but there was Humphrey was nowhere near at that point, so he's entitled to move back across at that point. And I think as he's moved back across and then got onto the brakes, Humphrey has just completely misjudged. Let's take another look, as we'll see that move back over to the right hand side of the circuit, just a misjudgment. I think he was probably going to miss the corner anyway. That's a bit unfortunate, a bit clumsy from Humphrey, and either way, both of them going to be dropping it down the order just a little bit past Chris Cooper, who takes both positions and is like, well, thanks for that. I'll take that. It's all right. One of the points that I made earlier on, Lewis, was about Igor Ogorodnikov. Do you remember that when I said it's either hero or zero? You get all out for the first 15 minutes, or you don't hear from him throughout the race, and that's exactly what we've had now. Ogorodnikov now down into 14th place with still one more pit stop to go. He is nowhere in contention right now, as is every other Aston Martin right now. I've got to be honest, I do strongly believe now we're going to either get a top 5 or a top 6 of McLarens.
I'm glad you picked the Aston Martin as your choice for the car to win this race now. It made it a lot easier for
I've
me.
never regretted anything so much in my life, I tell you.
It's for Olga Ognikov. I said this earlier. I was like, I'm not sure what's happened in his pit stop because his pace, I think, seems okay, but it's how he came in from inside the top sort of 6-7, came into the pit lane and came out behind Fusi, who's completed both of his pit stops. So effectively has a pit stop over him. Maybe he took tyres, maybe he's playing a bit of the long game in a sense. Don't know. Greaser comes into the pit lane, whether to serve his drive-through or just come in for his pit stop. Unsure at the moment. We'll see if that pit stop or drive-through, there you go, it's the drive-through that he's ticked off. So that's that one sorted. Bit of a shame for him to have done so. We believe it's from track limits, considering there's nothing that's come through from race control. And track limits around here, very, very easy to knock up. Obviously, you've got the exit at various corners. A little bit on the inside of the old hairpin, I believe, as well. But then, of course, most notably, the Fogarty S, which if you take too much on either side, you are getting a penalty.
Absolutely, and it's a double-edged sword as well, because if you exceed track limits, you've very likely gone over the curves that we spoke about pre-race, and they're so sharp, so serrated that very likely that you're going to have a tyre deflation issue as well. Pressures are going to go down, and you're going to go even further back.
Bit of a snap there from Szymanski leaving the old hairpin, so pushing very hard to try and get to the back of Jackson and maybe work his way up the order. It was a bit of an aggressive snap. Penalty dished out already, 15 seconds to Humphrey. I'm going to assume that was for that incident, unless there's other things that's been going on. Either way, 15 seconds headed his way already. Looking at Chris Cooper, who has Danny Greaser behind him. It says in the bottom left that he's in 11th position, but that is Humphrey directly ahead and Greaser directly behind. So not quite sure who else is in that sort of frame, but regardless, we'll roll with it. As running very, very wide is Humphrey. I think also through all of that, he is starting to struggle on tyres as well.
It's certainly becoming an issue, and again, another nail in the coffin for the Astons. The last lap round for Michael Tauscher, 1:28.386. The last lap round for Lucas Mueller, who's hunting him down, 1:27.318. So again, that's a second faster. Then it goes again, and that could be an outlier. But then you look at Walter Rotundo behind him in 6th place in the Aston. He did a 1:29.0. Behind him, he's got McCoffin and Cormac Ryan Meenan in McLaren's 0.8 of a second faster than him.
Lovely move from Greaser to get up into 10th position on the inside of Chris Cooper. See there, coming into the pit lane. The reason why, by the way, that we're not panicking about that car, the number 15, it was on the exit of Goddard's. That's Chris Kemple, who's a couple of laps down already, and by a couple, I'm being nice, unfortunately. It's not been the day for him in split 1. So he's just come into the pit lane to serve his pit stop. But that is the driver that was off the road there, instant between the 7 and the 55. That's obviously between Muller and Humphrey. That's the 15-second time penalty that Humphrey's got. As we watch Sheldon Muscat on the back of Skula with Foch in behind as well. Or it might just be Foch is just on the back of him. I think Skula might be a little bit further up the road. No, it is. It's all right. It is Skula just ahead of him. We're all right. I was getting a little bit concerned there as to how far down the road. Is indeed. Foch wondering how much more pace, because it seems like pace is quite good considering Sheldon Muscat was inside the top 10 and Foch is very much a part of that. Maybe the Jag might be a bit better when it comes to the long distance. Couple of leaders coming into the pit lane as Luke Whitehead makes his way down, and obviously we saw Sivert come in. He's out in 8th position now, having a pit stop completed.
Just looking at Michael Tauscher, actually, 4th place at the moment, and he hasn't pitted yet. He's one of the highest cars at the moment that haven't pitted right now. I wonder how far down that's going to put him, because obviously it would explain his lap times, 1:28.5, and you know, he's about 7/8 of a second slower than the McLarens around him. But I wonder how far he's going to try and push this.
I'm not. Every time I think about how I would run this race strategy-wise, and someone that I'm like, yes, they have made the right call, and I'm like, 20 seconds later, they have made the wrong call. It's very, very hard strategy-wise, because I said this in the Super Saturday as well, is you could run this race 100 times and a strategy would be different almost every single time. It wouldn't be the same one winning every single time, because it's so open. It's all about using the right strategy in the race that you're in. I know that sounds silly, but you watch F1 and stuff like that, and not that I'm throwing anything under the bus, don't panic, that there is a right strategy and there is a wrong strategy. In something like this, though, it's almost like there isn't any. It's, apples and pears. You have no idea. Near contact on the rear as Foch was closing in. Ben Hitz as well, nearly got a move on him through Fogarty S in the, just saw it in the mirror as we're riding on board with Sheldon Muscat trying to get by Skula. Malinovsky in the pit lane as well has already completed his stop. So I've got to give a big shout out as well. I know we did it quite a bit, but callback Ryan Meenan after that penalty, obviously didn't take tyres or anything and didn't really take too much fuel on his stop, but after a penalty, to say that he's in 7th position, nice work. And there goes Ben Hitz on the inside of the Jag, Foch, and there is a position gained.
Exactly, and let's put this into context, right? Malinowski and Ryan Meenan started at the back of the grid. They're both now P6 and 7. But Cormac Ryan Meenan had that penalty as well. So the fact that he's been able to keep on to that shows the absolute pace that he has got right now. It's just incredible stuff, as we see side by side with Schooler, and I believe that's Sheldon Muscat, isn't it, that he's fighting out with. But Muscat trying to have a look up the inside of McLaren's, and that's never going to work because they come through Coppice. It might be on the run down to Fogarty S's on Sarky Straight here, but he's going to have to watch out because Hitz is looking very, very menacing behind him.
Yeah, Sheldon Muscat is so much faster than the number 13 we're currently focused on, of Giancarlo Skula. You saw it coming out of the old hairpin, struggled a little bit in speed. They were side by side up through Schwantz Curve towards McLaren's. But yeah, Skula on whatever's going on, his pace is looking pretty grim at the moment. We've been told he's on older tyres than Muscat in behind. Muscat, though, like you say, he's got to watch his mirrors as here comes Ben Hitz, and there's contact. There is contact, and Sheldon Muscat tries to take advantage, and he forces his way through, and Ben Hitz gets sent down the order just as he sent Skula down the order. That was very, very messy indeed, and through all of that, Foch comes into the pit lane. Skula also comes into the pit lane. That was super duper clumsy of the highest accord. And for me, the first part Hitz just completely overdoes the corner. But whether Sheldon Muscat was going for a gap that didn't exist or it was being forcefully shut would probably take a little bit of a replay. He seemed pretty desperate to get through, did Sheldon Muscat. And you, Mr. David Christie, were absolutely right. He needs to be focusing on his mirrors. And I think he did, because he did get out of the way of Ben Hitz when he made that dive.
Yeah, I slightly disagree from the viewpoint. I thought Hitz was very unlucky in there. See, no, that's on Hitz, because Skula's already turning into the corner. But Muscat, that was a bit naughty from Muscat. I think he was just trying to force an issue, but it didn't need to be done. Hitz, I think the McLaren has got so much more pace than the two Astons in front of him, right? That's not in question. However, the point is always you have to make your way around the cars in front in a safe way as possible. You have to allow for cars to be able to turn into the corner. He wasn't going to make that turn at the speed that he was going in. We'll watch on board here.
Yeah, let's see. So you're going to see him make contact with the Aston Martin of Skula, just completely overdoes it. There's the hit on the rear, comes straight back to the apex, which that's the only reason why I'd almost be like maybe, but no, I'd fully agree with you. I think that in that scenario, obviously we're going to sit here, up in the commentary booth and make sweeping judgments because it's fun, isn't it? Ben Hitz is getting a penalty for that first bit on Skula. I think that one's pretty obvious, and I would agree with you that that Sheldon Muscat is probably going to pick one up for the second part of that incident as well, because you think of them of two different incidents, because effectively they are, and we are being told that is under investigation to absolutely no one's surprise. Here's Yegor Ognikov on the back of Fuzi. Fuzi done both of his stops, doesn't have to come into the pit lane again, and we assume, based on everything, taking the tyres that he's on all the way to the end of the race, which, considering the Aston Martin, considering how it's been on its tyres, that is a brave call from him to try and get at least to the head of the Aston Martin field, which I think is sort of the goal now for the Astons, isn't it? You want to beat all of the Astons.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with that, though, is the pace that he's got. Now, I don't think that this is his pace that we're seeing Igor Ogrodnikov chasing him down. I don't think that's down to his tyres have gone off. Fuzi is no stranger to endurance racing. He knows how to handle the car. He knows how to handle the tyres. I think he'll be backing off from 100% just to make sure that he's in the best possible position. Give it till maybe 15 minutes, and then he'll bring the guns out. Then he'll finish off the tyres and push it to as much as he can. But he's going to have to hold on to Igor Ogrodnikov. Now, I'm hearing in my ear that they think that he might be on for a podium here. I've got to be honest, I don't think so at all. He's 50 seconds behind the leader, who is then 17 seconds in front. I can't see it, because Fuzi at the moment is 50 seconds behind the leader, so maybe he might get up to, in my eyes, maybe 4th or 5th, but I just don't see him having the pace right now, because they are so consistently faster, about 7, 8 tenths a lap faster than him.
I think over the next 40 minutes that we've got us, there we go for Igor Ogrodnikov, and leaving the door open a little bit, the number 94 of Marcel Fuzi, and just sort of seeing him come through. Also, Chris Cooper, that white Aston Martin ahead of this, is for position. I would agree with you. I'm not too sure about where Fuzi's going to appear in this race, but he's leaving it down the inside. It's going to get by both of them. Almost getting pushed out of the way by Chris Cooper, just keeping very aware of the scenario that was happening around him, and watching these two drivers come through that are all completed a pit stop and maybe looking a little bit faster at the moment. Igor Ogrodnikov at the old hairpin. There we go. That's a fairly inspired move. Nice stuff from Fuzi. Coming back around the outside, round Starkeys Bridge. It's going to be around the outside of the Schwantz curve. These two showing us how it is done into McLaren's, and Igor Ogrodnikov is still not through on Fuzi. That is brilliant stuff between the two of them. Just overdid it a little bit, did Igor into the old hairpin, but a nice attempt at least. Whoa, he is brave.
Oh, come on, stop it, Igor. That was just outrageous round the outside of the Craner curves into the old hairpin, and he just made Fuzi look like he was absolutely standing still. But full credit to Fuzi, how aware to give him that space, to give him the room, and then just to get it going. Oh, contact!
Oh no! There's Igor Ogrodnikov spinning, as we've seen quite a few do, into the Melbourne hairpin. The question is, was he assisted or was it by himself? It didn't seem to snap in the way of like accordance of being hit. I think he just did it by himself. Chris Cooper was the car behind, who they pulled away from throughout that lap. So I don't think there was anyone behind him to make contact.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that one. I heard a massively loud squeal there. I thought it was Ogrodnikov's brakes, but it turns out it's just YouTube chat and his fan base going absolutely crazy right now. Igor Ogrodnikov, and I've said this quite a few times on previous races. He is his own worst enemy. Once he gets that red mist, he just pushes and pushes and pushes, and yeah, it's unfortunate, but again, you know, what an awesome job by Fuzi, already up into P7.
Yeah, exactly. And here comes Tauscher on the inside, being defended a little bit there from Fuzi. He's just trying to play it a little bit smart, not losing too much time. That was a nicely judged move there from Tauscher, though, who saw that defensive move. Sitting on the middle of the road from Fuzi wasn't the fastest way through the Fogarty S, and Tauscher absolutely knew it. And just backed out a little bit, carried the momentum out of the corner, and Tauscher gets the move done. Look at the replay here as we see Igor Ogrodnikov. Yeah, he's absolutely going to lose this by himself, just pushing it a little bit too far. He was wide in. He's onto the slightly dirty part of the circuit. We've been told he's running quite a low traction control. The second he used his right foot, the car went. I mean, in a sense, I'm sort of like, well, at least it wasn't done by someone else. So, you know, at least there's only one person to blame in that scenario. But it is a shame, because we do want to see Igor Ogrodnikov battling a little bit higher up the grid. We want to see those battles. We want to see that happening. And it was quite a thrilling fight between Ogrodnikov and Fuzi.
Lewis, I wish you could see my face right now because it is scrumpled up something rotten. That is such a strange one for Ogorodnikov. I can't get my head around that because that's sure enough at the Melbourne hairpin, and that's just the point where you're starting to feather the throttle in, but not enough to spin the back end out of the car. Certainly not until you're further round the corner and you're trying to grab another gear. I actually wonder if he's missed a gear or something, or went down too many gears at that point, because the way that car, the back end snapped out, it didn't look like it was a traction control fault or that he just planted it. That was very unusual. But either way, I mean, it's still the same result, and Igor Ogorodnikov is going to be absolutely kicking himself.
I think a bit of low grip on the tyres, maybe he's overheated them in that battle. Also running quite hot into the corner, i.e. fast, running a little bit wide onto the slightly dirtier stuff. And obviously, all the circuits here are laser scanned on Assetto Corsa Competizione, and the hairpin there at the Melbourne hairpin it's not flat, and it's not really banked into the apex or anything. There's no like good camera in it. It's actually sort of a bit of everything. It's slightly downhill, and so if you just clip it slightly wrong, it does go a little bit weird on you. And I think that's what's just happened from Ogorodnikov. Either way, what we could see is that he was just overdriving the car anyway. So unfortunately, that's what happened. What is happening though, a little bit higher up the grid, the number 24 has been in and has served his final pit stop, and you can see there, if you do the mathematics, is 8.8 seconds off of the race leader Luke Whitehead, which means that Lucas Müller has been absolutely incredible in the opening hour of this race in that number 24 McLaren. After completing those stops and only 8 seconds off, that is madness. That is domination.
Yeah, that's been a very, very strong performance from Lucas Müller in that third place just now. I'm also keeping an eye on Marcel Fusey. I have to admit, I might actually be wrong on this one. We had in the background, we had Michael Hamlet calling it that he could be on for the podium, and I was instantly shutting that down. I still am not sure about a podium, but I definitely think he's going to take either fourth or fifth place at this pace right now, because of course if you're just new to this and you haven't been hearing what we're saying, Marcel Fusey was one of the first drivers to take both of his pit stops. He was the first one to take his first one on that first lap, and then the second one after only half an hour, and both yourself, Lewis, and I were completely scratching our heads trying to wonder if that was actually going to work. And yeah, fair play to Marcel Fusey. I mean, I don't think he's made any great gains on where he was. He pitted in the first place at fifth position. So, I mean, is it a case of maybe he was better staying out?
I think the only way to really judge that is to look at who he was around through that early stage, because he was in that battle with Ogorodnikov and Sever and that lot. Now, he may end up beating Sever, although I'm not 100% sure of it. He is at the moment beating Ogorodnikov, who's got another pit stop to make, and obviously with that incident. So in a sense, to comparing him to where he was at that point in the race as to where he is now, I think potentially he made the right move. That's Ogorodnikov getting by Chris Cooper, who decides to go for a little bit of lawn mowing on the exit of Coppice as he just runs wide. A few drivers yet to take even a single pit stop, one being McCoffervan, who is currently running in fourth position. I think that Fusey is going to finish this race in fifth, behind 4 McLarens. That is what I'm going to call is going to be the lead Aston Martin. 31 minutes to go. Get your predictions in the chat. Why not? Let's see who's going to... not predictions as to who's going to win this race, because that one's looking a bit almost moderately settled as we go a little bit side by side. Right inside your screen, you've got Szymanski. Oh, that was a little bit of a moment from Humphrey, and Cantaneo didn't need a second invitation as he fires his way through. Although, whoa, Szymanski runs wide, getting right out of the road was Chris Kemple, seeing that battle come through, and Malcolm Humphrey gets through back on both of them. That's a dicey fight down the order, and nice awareness from Chris Kemper to be like, I'm just going to get off the road and get out of your way. I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to ruin what is looking like a pretty good race between you three. At least something that looks enjoyable. Pit stop from Chris Cooper, his first one of the race. Fusey with a drive-through penalty.
No,
just saw that pop up.
Absolutely devastating after all that hard work. And I was away to say, if it wasn't for that, he would have been on for fourth place. And I'll tell you why. McCoffervan has 2 stops left to do in fourth place. Sever has 1 stop, so does Jusa and Tauscher. Those three are only about 5 to 10 seconds ahead, and McLaughlin is about another 15 seconds, but with 2 pit stops, that would have been easily obtainable. But that is it. That is all she wrote for Marcel Fusy. He's now going to be lucky to finish in the top 10.
That is both sad and disappointing. I feel sorry for him. That's a little bit of a shame. For Fusy, he'll take that drive-through penalty and drop him a little bit down the order as he will come through. We look at James Jackson, who's been off the road at the Fogarty S. You can see there he was in 10th place, and you can see the car ahead of him is Rotundo. There has been a move here into the Fogarty S's as Rotundo's moving his way back up the order. Looking at... Oh, God.
Sorry, Nicola.
We're looking at Cantaneo with Szymanski behind after that pretty thrilling encounter. The fact that Szymanski nearly lost it on the exit of the old hairpin and caught it, it's not the first time we've seen him do that. So obviously pushing his McLaren to the very limit through there, which we've seen a few drivers do. So now we look at the battle for 13th places. Sheldon Muscat, his evening was looking like it could be quite good, and after a couple of incidents and stuff, maybe not so much. That one, of course, with Ben Hitz being the standout one. Oh, there we go. There's a little bit of a bump for Humphrey as Cantaneo hits the back of him, and that is not the first one of those we've seen today.
Well, I guess you could say the hits just keep on coming. Hey, thank you, I'll be here all night.
Tish. Have you tried me?
Muscat is so on the edge right now. He's really, really struggling to keep a hold of that thing right now. And yeah, that is so awesome to see. But I tell you what, that is a change of underwear moment at the exit of the old hairpin, because all it takes is just taking 2 wheels on that grass, and that car will spin you into the nearest wall.
Have you thought about a career in stand-up comedy?
I did actually. I always wanted to, but I ever had the gumption to go and do it.
Oh, there's that contact from Cantaneo and sending Humphrey round. No, I'm just not funny enough, so I didn't even bother. I already accepted my position in life as being a slightly mediocre sim racer, and then I gave up on that and decided to get in the commentary booth because it's easier. It's easier to talk badly about other drivers than it is to actually drive yourself. I'll say that. So for those watching, as we see Christopher Yan come into the pit lane, when we're harsh on drivers, just know that it's because we can't do it ourselves.
As I did on Saturday.
Mike Yao was saying, our broadcast director was saying that I need to get in some of these races at some point.
Yes. What we need to do is we need to get right. We need to reverse the tables. We need to get two of the drivers on commentary. And we need to get the commentators and the whole production team in the race.
But if we got Mike and both Mikes, Mike Yao and Michael Hamlet, who's running the broadcast?
I just we'll do an onboard stream or something like that.
Okay.
Push to change the cameras, that'll do
it. That's an easy move from Cormac Ryan Meenan as he gets done on Sheldon Muscat. That was not a particularly difficult move from Cormac Ryan Meenan. Having completed all of his stops, now gets up into 12th position. Fusy's come in to serve that drive-through penalty. At the moment, 8 seconds clear of the driver who's completed both of his pit stops. Luke Whitehead is leading the way from Lucas Mueller, who's in 3rd position. But the reason why I say that is because having completed both pit stop, Mueller's looking pretty strong indeed. Here's Marcel Fusy. Whoa, just coming out there and nearly getting squeezed off by Rotundo, who was the driver coming through in shot. Jackson off the road himself. And now Fusy, I mean, he can still get 5th.
How's he done that? I'm still trying to figure that one out, because he's still shown as that might change when he comes round this lap round. So we see mad battle going on for Humphrey and Jan right now. But Fusy in 7th place, and yet he's 47 seconds behind the leader, and yet the 3 cars in front of him still need to pit, and he's definitely going to take Tauscher. But Sever is going to come under real pressure if he's not careful.
Might have a thrilling battle with not very long to go in this race. Still 25 minutes on the clock and plenty of time for these drivers to take their final pit stop. Saw that battle between Jan and Szymanski. You've got Humphrey in behind this. Cantaneo's cleared off into the distance as we're running down the hill into the old hairpin yet again. Szymanski in that 22 trying to find the way past Jan. Cantaneo, 15-second time penalty. That'll be courtesy of the incident with Humphrey down at the Melbourne hairpin. And well, there goes Humphrey sending off Szymanski. So 15 seconds for him as well. Oh, goodness. I just take me back to that battle between Ogorognikov and Fusi, because that was the class act of the day. We've seen a few mistakes, David. It's easy to do around here, but some of the drivers just getting into the back of others.
That was a bit rude, wasn't it? That was they were racing along quite pleasantly beside each other, and that was a rather unexpected poke up the behind there. It's not what you want to see here at Donington. But look, at the end of the day, the drivers are starting to get tired now. Fatigue's starting to set in a little bit. Tyres are completely starting to go. I don't even want to know what Marcel Fusi's tyres are like, although he's still putting in fairly decent times just now. And I'd argue this is, where the real driving comes in, because this is where you have to have your wits about you. This is where you have to have the concentration. This is where the race is going to be lost for you.
Absolutely. You need to keep focused. There's confirmation of that incident between the 25 and the 7 being the driver that we're looking at, was sent off at the Melbourne hairpin a few laps ago, and Cantaneo receiving a 15-second time penalty for his troubles. Under pressure, though, is Cantaneo anyway from Christopher Jan, who's on the circuit at the moment, and with that 15-second time penalty will be served once he crosses the line. He'll be behind anyway, so needs to pull out that gap to whoever he possibly can. Final pit stops coming in from certain drivers. Still got a few more to serve, as Chris Cooper behind this is yet to serve his, as well as a few up the road. McCoffervan has served his first pit stop not too long ago, was running in 4th, but is now running in 8th, but still got a pit stop to serve. I don't think he's going to be inside the top 10. That certainly needs a good drive to do so. I mean, he's got 5 seconds, and the next driver the final driver that's inside or outside the top 10. So not sure that one's going to work out for him, but decent pace regardless. I just don't think the race has gone his way. He's had a few too many incidents, either of his own accord or others.
And that's putting it very, very nicely indeed. Can we get I think we need to get a new livery for Samir Foch in the Jaguar. We need to get one of those big ribbons that said "You tried."
Yeah.
Goodness knows that Jag, it really was the not the best choice that he could have made, and he still made it look reasonably good. I do think if he was in an Aston or a McLaren, we would see him in the top 10. The pace that he's got.
Yeah, it's the thing is with those kind of cars, and I've spoken about this when you've got like some cars that maybe are slightly underpowered in comparison, is that sometimes you can do the same lap times as some of the bigger boys, some of the other cars. But it takes such a level of concentration and focus that when pushing it, Igor Ogorognikov, drive-through penalty. There we go. So there's one for him inside the top 10. But yeah, you're pushing to the very limit in that car. Your mind, you go through a lot of mental fatigue when you're on that limit. If it's only a 20-minute race, you can wrestle that. If you're in a weaker car, you can almost wrestle that extra time out. Whereas over an hour and a half, you can wrestle it out for maybe 40 minutes, 45 minutes. But after that point, your brain is just like, oh, I can't keep this on the limit. It's just not possible. It's not sustainable. And I think that's kind of what we've seen, as well as a couple of other incidents.
Conversely though, Lewis, the opposite can happen sometimes. So you'll find drivers when they're in a pack and they're battling it out and just going toe to toe for 40, 50, 60 minutes. It's when they get that clear air, suddenly something clicks in them and they get so confused. They start struggling, they start going wide, they don't have the other cars in front to follow lap in, lap out. We see that quite often. So again, it just adds another dynamic of these drivers being able to know how they drive. It's fine being able to be fast, it's fine being able to qualify well and get yourself well up the grid, and it's great if you can do a sprint race of like 10 to 20 laps, but when you're racing for an hour and a half, you really have to go through several different stages. You have to get yourself into that state of flow where you can't remember what you've just done for the past hour, and then suddenly you're on to the final lap.
how many times, if you had a penny for every time that someone made an overtake and then made a mistake a few corners later, we'd be rich, because it happens so often. Because you're absolutely right, when you're behind someone, you're focused so hard on them, and even if you're using, you're not using them as a brake marker, you're still using your standard brake markers. The moment that you're ahead of them, it's so bizarre. You just can't focus on anything realistically. You're just so confused by everything, and it's just like, right, okay, where am I supposed to brake? And you miss braking points and whatnot. Malinovsky takes the race lead then, with still a pit stop to go, as we focus on Luke Whitehead, who is into the pit lane from that race lead. It'll be handed over to Lucas Mueller, who is now past, of course, Luke Whitehead, but still needs to get by Malinovsky. For Mueller, I can't think, David, of many drives that have been that dominant. Absolutely different track to everyone else. He is trying to get around here as fast as possible so he can go and catch a flight from the nearby airport and go home.
It absolutely is the case. However, what I am going to say is Maciek Malinowski to start last on the grid, and to be finishing potentially in the top 5 is just unreal. I think we need to go and jump into his Discord channel and celebrate. Is it Disc? No, but it is. It says Discord, so it's obviously some fish-based platform.
Well, I mean, it might. You would think that, but I think you might be overthinking. I think it's potentially just a completely missing
you think
key.
He's misspelled that?
Yeah, I think he's just not doing it right. Either way, into the pit lane is Malinovsky, who might well be on the podium. I'd assume so, based on the pace that he's having from the back of the grid. That is very, very impressive, and cleanly as well. So massively impressive there from Malinovsky. Getting his, it's good to sort of, get the rust off and just be like, right, okay, let's try and work out the order and learn overtakes, especially on a circuit like this. Wow, is Danny Guisa under an awful lot of pressure. Cormac Ryan Meenan on the rear end of him, a driver that has come down that started from down the pack, has worked its way up the order less cleanly. 15-second time penalty that went Cormac Ryan Meenan's way. Now on the back of Danny Guisa though, and trying to get yet another move. At the moment we're looking at Malinovsky, and coming down the order you can see Luke Whitehead, that white, black and orange car, a couple of cars behind. There he is. So Malinovsky up into a potential runner-up position at the moment.
Wow, that is absolutely huge, and we didn't think that. We thought, it'd be great for him to get a podium, but for second place, I mean, that is just absolutely ridiculous. A little bit of contact on the entrance to Goddard's there, and that was a little bit rude there from Juicer there. Ryan Meenan's having absolutely none of it, and the two of them are going to go side by side down the start-finish line.
Yeah, good cutback, pulled it up to the final apex very nicely. Did Cormac Ryan Meenan. Greaser in behind, looking for the inside at Redgate, not going to get through there. I almost feel that he might have sort of almost lifted out of that to allow Cormac Ryan Meenan through just a little bit, because he did seem a little bit unnecessarily slow on the exit of Goddard's. Maybe, like I say, maybe a bit of a sort of like, oh, sorry, I didn't realise that you were there, or something in that effect. And just allowed that to unravel. Luke Whitehead, though, is going to be setting his sights on getting second position back, as darting past the lapped traffic. That was Cantoneo that he's got by. 15-second time penalty over him, already been through that. And for Luke Whitehead, he's not going to be happy about that, is he? He's thinking, how did you jump me? As Tauscher comes into the pit lane in the background of all of that. How did you jump me? And how am I going to get back through? 60 minutes, so plenty of time to still find a way through over the final part of this race. But each time they go through a corner, it's an overtaking opportunity gone.
I'm not so sure about that, because Malinowski now on the fresher tyres, it's not going to make that much difference with Whitehead pitting about a lap or two behind him, in front of him. So tyres aren't going to be massive, but look at the pace that Malinowski has had all through this race. It's incredibly difficult to see anyone else but him taking that second place. It's all going to be about the next 15 minutes for sure, but Malinowski knows how to make that McLaren as wide as he possibly can.
It could be quite a hard run for the checker flag. I'm still going to say there's going to be a battle. I would, if I were putting my money on someone, it would be on Malinowski, who's in a very good spot, obviously being ahead and having the pace, but it is not going to be easy. René Siver comes into the pit lane from second position, so dropping down the order now, potentially going to come out sort of fourth place, I think. Tauscher, who's also out of the pit lane, we'll keep an eye on them. We're on board with Malinowski looking towards Luke Whitehead, who is behind by 3/4 of a second as they pass René Siver, who's in the pit lane. 15 minutes left, not very long. Lucas Mueller is the only driver who we don't really need to focus on at the moment, who is miles down the road, didn't even care about this race, but that battle for second position, I don't know about you, this is not done. This is not done yet.
6 and 2 3s. I think Whitehead is starting to make a couple of unforced errors. You can just see that there in the background. He is dropping away a little bit on the entrance to Old Railway Bend, and then he just pulls it all right back, as we see here. Cormac Ryan Meenan still going toe to toe. I think that was McCoffin that he just took the place from there. And you can see Jusa are way back off in the distance now, at least 3-4 car lengths behind. And again, look at the point we were making. McLarens have just been absolutely dominant in this race.
Yeah, McCoffin and Rotundo still yet to take their stop, so that move for Cormac Ryan Meenan on the 339 isn't realistically for position, because we're still waiting for that final pit stop. Still a fair way up the road as well is the 172. It's just gone through the old hairpin, so a good sort of 5-6 seconds up the road is Rotundo. But again, that final pit stop coming in, the car between them is Skula, who's had a few issues today himself, and a lap down for his efforts. Looking backwards again from Malinowski. What's the gap over the lap this time? 9/10 of a second, pulling out by 2/10. I think you might be on the money here, as Malinowski is trying to fire in some good laps late in the day to try and just build whatever gap, because the more that he can build, the more pressure is off of his shoulders. That every time you see that gap come in a tenth, you're just like, I'm going to have to deal with that at some point. Whereas if you see it going out, you end up just breathing a bit calmer. You can set some better lap times and just focus on what you're doing. Rotundo currently on screen at the moment with Marcel Fusi up ahead, currently in 6th position after taking 2 pit stops and a drive-through for good measure. Going to be outside of the top 5, but 6th place looks pretty good for him, dependent on the pace of Cormac Ryan Meenan behind.
Well, Cormac Ryan Meenan is quite a lot faster, to be quite honest with you, about a second a lap faster. And the gap between Cormac Ryan Meenan and Fusi is about 5 seconds, 4.3 seconds, I think it says there. So you see Hetz getting manhandled round the corner. That's Jackson in the number 38 car. Of course, James Jackson, and the two of them fighting it out, but James Jackson makes that move on the exit of the corner there on Coppice, and that's already done by the time they get down to the Fogarty S's. Yeah, sorted. Which is basically the best way that you want to make a move, realistically, around the circuit. If you're going to make it at any point, just make sure that it's done quickly and cleanly. Plenty of time to go. The number 97 then to the inside of Jackson at the final corner. No way through there. It's 8/10 of a second between Malinowski and Whitehead, so coming down 1/10 of a second, but I think it's just going to be ebbing and flowing, and potentially it's going to be in the requirement of a mistake for any major change, which you wouldn't really say, considering how this race has gone. There is going to be a mistake between them. Back out again another 2/10 of a second, and it goes out over a second between Malinowski and Whitehead. Oh, Sheldon Muscat and Ben Hitz. These two have come together today. Sheldon Muscat. Wow, that is a catch. What a mighty, mighty save, coming down the hill through the crane of curves, and just managed to get it slowed down enough to hit the apex and carry on as if nothing happened through the old hairpin. Rotundo into the pit lane, but whew, almost save of the day. Yeah, he's going to have to come into the pits, change his brakes and change his underwear at the same time, because that was a wild moment coming out of the corner there, and you could tell that car was still insecure. It was still wobbling. It was still off balance, and then how he caught it into McLean's there, that was just awesome car control there from Sheldon Muscat. It's disappointing in the grand scheme of things. I mean, it could have been a much better race for him, but being honest, he was just not in the right car.
No, I mean, the thing is with the whole car thing, it's easy to say. It's like it's almost an easy excuse to throw out there. But it's all like there are a lot of other drivers in the same car that have had a better race as Ben Hitz nearly makes contact with Sheldon Muscat. You work with the tools you've got. Maybe this race hasn't worked out for them. Better to have it now than in a series that's you're scoring points and doing for a longer period of time. It's better to do it in a more fun event. There goes Sheldon Muscat just getting out of the way. Fairly bizarrely of Ben Hitz there, just didn't fancy defending anymore, maybe feeling it's a little bit too risky. Going to try and focus on hanging on to 20th position. The Jaguar behind a Foch, who's not too far behind, it's about 2 and a bit seconds in that Jag. Would like to get a top 20 in this race. Chris Cooper picks up a drive-through penalty late in the day. Near contact between the two of these two again, as Hitz was a little bit slow off of the old hairpin himself.
Oh, you hate to see it. And the thing is you made that point about 6 minutes ago where you said how often do you see a car overtaking and then making a mistake within 4 to 5 corners. That's exactly what happened there, as Hitz just took too much speed, as he's used to following Muscat into the old railway bend. He took too much speed, took 2 wheels on the grass and had a little bit of a wobble there, but that gap is now definitely starting to come down between Malinowski and Whitehead, because it was a second that last lap round. Is definitely not anywhere near that. That's 0.4 of a second that Luke Whitehead is taken out of Maciej Malinowski in that H3 Racing number 2 McLaren. And yeah, you called it again earlier. I think we've definitely now got a fight on our hands.
I think that must have been a mistake from Malinowski, or maybe something in lap traffic that just cost him a little bit of time, because he looked fine, and like you see this pace between the two of them. He's managed to pull away as well from Luke Whitehead just over the first few corners of the lap. So I think potentially there was just a mistake in proceedings that just sort of closed that gap up. But this is the point in the race where you can't afford to make mistakes. We're saying that it might take a mistake for a position to change in that scenario, and maybe that still might be the case. Jan leads Szymanski with Humphrey in behind for 14th, 15th and 16th place. No threat from behind. Humphrey, no real anything they can grab ahead of Jan, as McCoffervan is going through the Fogarty S, so a fair way up the road. This battle will then, I'd assume go to the checkered flag, but it means something to them. You battle for the positions that you're in. You can't be sat there thinking, oh, well, if I was battling for first, then I'd battle much harder. Well, no, just battle as hard as you can for the position that you're in. There, Luke Whitehead has lost a bit of time to Malinowski, so I think it's gone back the way of Malinowski.
Yeah, and Lewis, that brings up a fantastic point of the sim grid, and one of the big selling points we see Szymanski going up the inside there. Beautiful, beautiful move. But the thing about the sim grid that I love the most is the fact that, as we mentioned earlier, you've got these different splits that you take part in. Now, split 1 is what we always broadcast because it is the best of the best. It's the cream of the crop. But we always encourage our viewers never to get disheartened by this. If you're not on the pace with these guys, then we've got several other splits that are of varying pace. So if you're just new and you're just getting started out, then we do the lower split, the low split for you to get involved in. And no matter where you are on the field, there's always someone to battle.
Yeah, it's the perfect part, and of course plenty more coming up in the sim grid. Best of British starts pretty soon as well with the Sprint Cup, and plenty more. We've got a 12-hour race at the weekend, the Next Gen Silverstone 12-hour Brain Tumour charity race coming up on Saturday. And of course, you say, for these events that we do, there are various splits. It's a great entry point into sim racing, but also it's a great point higher up in sim racing for the up and top elite World Cup VCO coming fairly soon, and plenty more racing on the horizon. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because this is where it's all been broadcast, and whew, boy have we got some races coming up. Cormac Ryan Meenan on the back of Marcel Fusi after starting from the back, after having a 15-second time penalty as well for good measure, trying to get himself up into the top 6. Brilliant stuff. Fusi having taken his pit stop first, his second pit stop before anyone else, having completed that. He hasn't been in the pit lane for a very long time, and now he is about to be dived down the inside by Cormac Ryan Meenan, who's done his fair share of passes today. Going to be a good cutback for him through the Fogarty S, but is there going to be an opportunity down into the Melbourne hairpin, covering the inside as Marcel Fusi? That McLaren is looking pretty fast, David.
It's looking rapid right now, and it's a wonderful, wonderful effort from Cormac Ryan Maynard, who tries to get the switchback around the outside of the hairpin there for the inside of Goddard's. What a move if he pulls that off. That is absolutely exceptional for Cormac Ryan Maynard. That is textbook stuff. Absolutely wonderful move there. Beautiful.
The drive that he had off of the Melbourne hairpin was absolutely stunning from the number 12 of Cormac Ryan Meenan. Just got it, just edged alongside the number 94 of Marcel Fusi, and then that dive down the inside, there was contact, but that was as Fusi was trying to time a cutback. As far as I saw, Cormac Ryan Meenan was right on the white line. A little bit of a slow exit from Goddard's. Didn't matter. That run into Redgate, the position was his, the corner was his, and Cormac Ryan Meenan, 7th position. Marcel Fusi, 5 minutes left. He'll be eyeing up his mirrors and thinking there's an Aston Martin catching me at the moment, the form of Danny Guisa, who's only 2.5 seconds back, and that'll be his focus for the final 5 minutes of this race.
And you've got to say, catching very quickly as well. Look at how quickly Cormac Ryan Meenan has absolutely gapped Marcel Fusi. And I'll tell you right now, tyres, this is what I said about 45 minutes ago, or no, actually when he took his second pit stop, how he was going to last on those tyres. I said if he did it 45 minutes to the end, possibly he could do it. But right now, those tyres have gone and he is going to go backwards, and I'm telling you, it's going to be very, very significant as well. Not only is Juicer going to be in contention with this one, but if he doesn't get a move on, well, actually no, 21 seconds behind that, actually I think he's safe from Igor Ogorodnikov. In fact, he definitely is safe from Igor Ogorodnikov, but he will lose this place, absolutely guaranteed, to Juicer.
But also, as we look at the McLaren in the background, that is Lucas Mueller, who is coming round to potentially he's going to try and lap 8th place. He's not far off of lapping 6th place, which means that over an hour and a half, he's nearly lapped everyone up to 5th. I don't think he'll quite get to Cormac Ryan Meenan, but how dominant has this man been today? Like, that is insane. That is absolutely insane. We'll see what happens over the final 3 minutes. Got a couple more turns around the circuit to see what position we're all going to be coming out in. It was half a second at the line from Malinovsky and Whitehead, but once through Redgate, and the gap has split again just a little bit. It's more of a pressure battle rather than any sort of chance of a move. And for Malinovsky, he's dealt with that kind of pressure throughout the day, and it almost seems as if he won't crack. But that final lap coming around fairly shortly might have something else to say about it.
Well, two battles going on with Malinowski and Whitehead, and that's traffic that's absolutely played part. And look at that, Whitehead getting compromised on the exit of Coppice there. That allows Malinowski getting compromised on the exit of Coppice there. But look at Juice as well, as I said, already onto the back of Fusi. And this is going to be like taking candy from a baby. This is not going to be a case of if he gets this moved on. It's going to be a case of when Juicer gets this moved on.
Absolutely, doing the classic Mike Howe side by side. This is the penultimate lap of the race, as you see there coming through the background of shot, Lucas Mueller. Oh, is it going to be a move into the hairpin? Yes, it is. The number 14 goes through. Wow, that was brave, aggressive. We saw Ogorodnikov trying that a little bit earlier in the race, and there goes Marcel Fusi a lap down on Lucas Mueller. That was aggressive to the maximum for Guisa, but he had so much more grip in that scenario, and wow, he didn't need a second bite of that. Just absolutely went for it down the inside. Didn't see too many moves into the old hairpin today, but we have seen a couple, and they've been fairly extraordinary. Whitehead, who we're currently on board with, you can see that gap growing bit by bit. They seem to be better at different parts of the circuit. The lap traffic that they went past was Rotundo going into the Fogarty S, and it just provided maybe a little bit of an opportunity for Whitehead. Doesn't have the pace in the car at the moment to take advantage of it, though. That 992 is pacey enough to hold Luke Whitehead at an arm's length.
I feel like, I've got 2 points to make. Firstly, we need to take every opportunity we possibly can to remind our viewers that Malinowski started at the back of the grid and he's in second with a minute to go. It's just absurd. It's unheard of, and it shows the absolute pace that Malinowski has as a driver. He is just an absolute weapon of a driver. Going back to that pass from Jusa, I think of it in my head. I can't see that Jusa didn't make that move, and he's not on voice chat screaming just at the top of his lungs as he makes that charge down the inside. It's just, what a move. And again, just shows how much confidence he has in that car.
But was that move out of desperation to grab the position, or out of desperation to not be put a lap down by his teammate, who is closing in very quickly on the final lap of the race? Main screen at the moment, the focus on that battle between Malinowski and Whitehead, which I just think isn't going to happen for Whitehead. They're on the penultimate lap now, though. I think. Oh no, they are on the final lap. No, I'm with it. I thought they were ahead. I thought they were ahead of Lucas Müller. No, they are on the final lap. So they won't have too many more opportunities. Coming on to the Grand Prix loop, though, and coming down into the Melbourne hairpin and putting a lap on his teammate for good measure. A dominant display from the number 24 all afternoon there. I don't have any words to speak of how impressive that drive has been. Just wasn't seen all day for the number 24 out of the final corner, and it is dominance at Donington. Lucas Müller comes across the line to take victory for McLaren, the number 24. Fantastic stuff. Here's the battle for second position. We'll see if anything can happen between Whitehead and Malinowski. Different strategies between the two. It came down to the pit lane as to which one of these was going to come out on top. They've got Schooler as well ahead as lap traffic. But Malinowski is going to cross the line from the back of the grid to second, call it at that final stop. Whitehead behind, and it is a podium for them regardless. Siver departs the final corner to grab fourth. Tauscher should be grabbing fifth, and again from the back of the grid, Cormac Ryan Meenan should be coming home very comfortably in sixth, because he's got no threat from behind because they're lapped and have already finished.
Well, I always like to look for new words to describe the races, and I think tonight was a romp, wasn't it, for Lucas Müller? He romped his way to victory. There was nobody that even came close. Although, what I still cannot get my head around is the fact that Maciej Malinowski made his way to second place from the back of the grid and was only 21 seconds behind the leader. And I can't get my head around that. But for me as well, Samir Foch in 18th place in that Jaguar. That is my feel-good story of today. Delighted to see the lone wolf or the lone Jaguar in 18th place, finishing in the top 20. Respectable result, and yeah, it could have been much better. But you've got to fly the flag sometimes.
Yeah, did get that top 20 in the end, which we do like to see. So good stuff there. It was a hard race, and here will be your finishes. This is from 11th down, of course, the top 10 being Müller, Malinowski, Whitehead on the podium. Siver, Tauscher, the top 5. Cormac Ryan Meenan in 6th position. Then Guisa, Fusi, Ogorognikov and Rotundo, the top 10. Behind that, though, Jonathan Steele gets himself 11th position. McCoffin, after starting in 10th, drops down to 12th position. Szymanski, Müller and Humphrey in 15th after a few penalties for them. Christopher Yan, we saw that battle quite a few times, what was happening down there. 16th position. Then Jackson hits Foch, Muscat and Cantoneo. The rest of the order, though, or Muscat rather, sorry. The rest of the order, it must be said, that was quite a thrilling race in the early stages. It was crazy stuff, and I'm baffled by that domination.
It's a strange one, isn't it? Because we came into the race and we were really unsure of what to expect. We knew that there was going to be, lots of drama and lots of excitement, but we can never tell that a driver is going to come away and just absolutely walk away with the win. Because, we've seen Lucas Müller a couple of times before here at SimGrid, and he's had mid-pack finishes, and he's had, horrible days out, and he's had the odd win here or there. But to win in that performance, I just wish we could see that more often from these drivers, and we had that consistency. So you could then say, oh, well, they were absolutely dominant there, so they should be on for a strong performance. And then they end up finishing 22nd or 23rd or something. Another great reason for the sim grid that, you just never know what to expect in these races.
Absolutely. Well, let's grab a word, shall we? Because we don't normally see races of that level of dominance, but wow, what a drive it was. Lucas, talk about your drive, because that was mighty impressive.
First of all, thank you. And yeah, I mean, it was a really good race. The strategy I chose was pretty much on point. So I could clear P2 quite early in the race. So I just focused on myself and focused that my laps went well. I don't know even if I get a warning for cutting or whatever. So it was pretty clean. And then I was a little bit worried when I was in the pit for my first stop and the others were still on the track, because I wasn't sure if my strategy is going to work. But in the end, it worked quite perfectly. And yeah, so it was a really nice race, I guess.
You looked comfortable and confident out there. We weren't too sure at the start of the race what was going to be the right call on car. It seemed like the Aston Martins really, really struggled out there. Were you kind of expecting that, and is that why you went for the McLaren, or is it just naturally how it went?
Actually, I had no idea which car was going to be faster. I just thought I liked the McLaren. So, I mean, first of all, I thought it's going to be the new McLaren because it didn't read the rules probably. So I was a little bit confused when I turned up with the older version of it. But I really liked the car. But yeah, I mean, I think the McLaren was faster than the Aston Martin today. Hard to judge what the Bentley and the Jag would do, because sadly not many people drove it. But yeah, the McLaren is a nice car, really stable, really suits me, so that's pretty much why I chose it, and it looks nice and has a nice sound.
Wow, massive thanks to you, and what a drive you put on there. Hopefully we get to see more of that in the future.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to do that.
Well, thank you to Lucas Miller, who took victory today. We'll take in the driver that ended up second on the road after starting at the back. An incredible drive from Malinowski. Talk us through it. How did you get up the order that fast, and how did you get on the podium from the back?
Well, when doing such stunt, let's call it, it's just important to be cautious but committed. And if you just have a lot of trust in what you're doing, you can go for the field like that, because you can see a gap and you can place the car with confidence there. So it's not actually that hard if you have a pace advantage to go through the field like that. And it's always super fun on the start, because everyone is matched together, so many cars. A lot of also mistakes and crashes, so you need to be really aware of everything. But it's so much fun in those fun races doing stuff like that sometimes.
So the important question, which we all had, why? What like not like in an aggressive sense, but why did you choose to start from the back of the grid? Was it just for fun, or is it more of like a strategy call to learn some stuff coming through?
I don't know. I think that was Kilian's idea. But he left the race pretty early. I don't know, we just sometimes do that for fun, I guess, because you can just come through the field and have some battles, and it's just fun. I mean, we're all here for the win, but we're also here for good fun and for good racing, and starting from the back gives just that.
Wow, you did put on quite a display as well with that final battle. Thank you so much for showing it to us, and hopefully we'll see more of that in the future.
Yeah, let's hope so. Thank you as well. Cheers.
No worries. Our final interview will be from the driver that was just beaten in the final stages of that race. Luke Whitehead, maybe a little bit sad after seeing Malinowski come out of the pit lane ahead of you in the final parts of that race. Was the car just not there for you to fight him for that second place?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was quite ill prepared, I'll be honest, because throughout the week I was testing in the Aston Martin, because that was the only car I had a sort of decent setup in. And then I saw how fast the McLaren boys were, and I was like, right, this is the car that I need to use, to fight for a good result. So I actually just got the McLaren 720S setup from Imola and then basically imported it over onto this. And for qualifying, it worked really well. The car was really fast, but then in the race, it was a dog. It was a real dog. It was really difficult to drive. And to be honest, I know of Maciek and Lucas. I've seen them in big races before, so I knew that to battle with those guys was going to be a tough task anyway, even if I had the car underneath me. So, well done to Lucas and Maciek. They've just better than me today. But yeah, I was coming into this hoping for a top 10 after looking at the grid. So to come away with a podium, I couldn't be happier. I'm absolutely ecstatic. Well, with that then, considering you had not much preparation, you must have some experience around Donington Park before elsewhere in sim race, real life, or something, because that was mighty impressive with a very low amount of practice then. Yeah, I mean, Donington I've driven in real life, which helps. And I've also done quite a bit in the sim in a range of different cars, in touring cars and everything like that. So I've got I know my way around here. But obviously in this car and this, these track conditions, they're very cold. They're much colder than what I'm used to. I'm usually in races, they're usually about 25 to 30 degrees, and it's half of that. So again, it was all new for me, and I'm really happy with how I adjusted. So I'm excited for any more races that you guys put on. I know you've got a lot in the works, so I'm very excited to participate in more. Oh, there will be plenty more, and hopefully we'll see you in more. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And our final person to interview then isn't an interview itself. It's just the final thoughts of one Mr. Iconic David Christie.
I'm loving all this praise tonight. It's brilliant. Just keep it coming, Lewis. I'll happily take it on, buddy. Look, yeah, what an awesome race we had tonight. We said that on the build-up. We were looking forward to thrills and spills, and again, just what I said there, you never know which way it's going to go. We had a brilliant, dominant performance, but my goodness me, I mean, Maciek Malinowski, for me, it might not have won it, but he wins massive brownie points after that performance tonight. For me, he's my driver of the day, just purely for that charge through the field. A shame, you saw Cillian Ryan-Meenen, Cormac Ryan-Meenen trying to do similarly. Different changes between, differences between the two of them, but yeah, fantastic event, and it's really becoming par for the course now for the SimGrid one-off events. Yeah, I think we always leave these, and I have a list of drivers that I'm like, wow, they did really, really well. Like, if you're handing out brownie points, there's a lot of drivers that are getting them. And of course, we'll have a lot of drivers getting them over the next few weeks because we've got plenty of racing coming up. A reminder that this weekend, the Next Gen Silverstone 12-hour Brain Tumor charity race starts on Saturday. Of course, there's plenty of other racing coming up. Sprint Cup Season 3 starts again, the Endurance Cup as well. We've got Best of British. We've got plenty of other racing, so get yourself on the SimGrid. Subscribe to the channel, and don't forget about the VCO World Cup coming up fairly soon. Our sponsors, of course, Coach Dave Academy. If you're fairly new to sim racing, absolutely check this out, as well as if you're experienced as well, because everyone is open to learning stuff. And of course, to Thrustmaster, who push us through and help us out. And I don't know about you, David, but I am looking for more of this. And that's always what we get. So yeah, you're in the right place, Lewis. Just stick with it, and we will facilitate that need for more exciting, awesome racing here on the SimGrid. Well, until next time then, I think it is about time. Huge thanks as well to Mike Yao and Michael Hamlet, who's been in our ear. From me, Lewis McGlade, David Christie, we'll wish you a farewell and see you next time. Until then, bye-bye.